Woo! We're here, ladies and gentlemen. We're live, boys and girls, for a very special episode. A very spectacular. Okay. Wow, we are live early. If you haven't noticed, we are live to go over some of the, look, I can't put it any other way. It's like Christmas in June. It is, for those of you who aren't on Twitter, this morning, Trump, and Elon began fighting. Elon began poking at President Trump, making tweets about him, things. We're going to go over, we're going to see, we're going to go through the timeline here. Donald Trump, President Trump, on True Social, struck back, started tweeting out some hits on Elon. And boy, oh boy, baby, it's escalated. We're here. You are first. Crash out or cash out. Oh, brother, we are live really early today. We have a panel at 6, and I was going to go live at 6, but I can't not cover this madness. Okay, let's start with the biggie. Let's start with the best and the brightest of them all. Let's get into it. Let me get it up for you. It's a little disorganized today, I know, but this is live. This is happening now. It's all going down as we speak, and it's going to keep going down. Where it stops, I don't know, but we're going to start at, I think, what I consider the nuclear bomb. The nuclear bomb. Does he still have it up? If not, I have a screenshot of it. But oh, here it is, still up. 500,000 likes on this bad boy, babies. Oh gosh, let me. Oh man, one day I'll have my shit correct. Right up. Okay, here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Elon Musk at 3:10 today, so just a little over an hour ago, decides to drop what he calls the really big bomb. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it kind of is time to drop the really big bomb. At Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Bro just set any bridge that they may have had on fire. It is a nuclear bomb. And you might be thinking, well, didn't we already kind of suspect that? We did kind of suspect that. But a lot of these accusations have come from people on the left, people outside of the administration, people who would normally attack Donald J. Trump. So a lot of people just kind of shoved those accusations off, said, no, that's not true. This is just sour grapes. It's people that are mad at Trump, blah, 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 blah. Donald Trump and Elon Musk worked together. Elon Musk or at least contributed to Donald J. Trump being elected president of the United States. Without Elon Musk, I don't think Donald Trump wins the election. I just don't think he does. That's the power of social media. That's the power of the message, right? And again, there's no one cause for an election, but it would be foolish to say that Elon Musk didn't contribute. So when you have an accusation like that coming from some dude who's been on your side, woo, baby! I already see the cope. In my tweets and my replies and all that on Twitter. I already see the cope saying, well, no, if Donald J. Trump was on it, they would have released it like years ago during Clinton. Not necessarily. There's probably a host of people on that list, and a lot of people didn't want that to see the light of day, left, right, and center. Let's be real. If you think that no large Democratic operative is on that list, you're foolish. The rich, the powerful, there's a host of people across the political spectrum on that list. And so again, a lot of people don't want that list coming out. And now we know why, and at least according to Elon Musk, it hasn't come out, even though we were promised by Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Trump himself. A lot of people said, if you elect Trump, we will get the Epstein files. And, well, it hasn't been released. They've had a lot of opportunity to do so. They had this weird binder event. I don't know if you guys remember a few months ago where they made this big show of just releasing information everybody already had. And they were like, oh, look, we did it. And everyone was rightly mad at them for that. It was a big error on the Trump team. Well, if you believe Elon, there's a reason they've been spinning their wheels. There's a reason they've been slow walking this. There's a reason they've been covering it up. There's a reason that Kash Patel suddenly is like, well, actually, we think Epstein actually did kill himself. There's nothing crazy there. He's actually killed himself, right? There's no cover-up. Stop looking into it. Now we know why, boys and girls. Now we know why, boys and girls. Oh, boy. Bones of Doom, nice to see you. World War Elon, true. No Cow Mike. I like how Elon tweets at, which is also an admission. He's known this and said nothing. So now both sound worse. There's that angle at play there, but we'll get into that. 999 Ruben says, just came from Twitterwick. Shit just hit the fan, man. Ha, ha, ha. It's been building up all day. I woke up to it building, okay? I woke up to it being built up, right? And we're going to look at it. And we're going to watch. We're going to see some of these tweets. It's a little disorganized, keep in mind, because this is all just going in. Parallax says, Wick, your hairline isn't receding, it's performing withdrawal. True. Look, I'm old, gang. I'm 41, 42. Fuck it. I think I'm 40. I'm turning 42 in July, so I'm going to call myself 42 for now. I'm allowed to have a receding hairline. It's okay. Yeah. ICE from Dwight Baldwin. ICE is prepping planes to ship Musk to El Salvador right now. Yeah, ICE. Imagine being those ICE agents gearing up for this mission, right? You get a call from the president saying, hey, we got a high value target. We just discovered evidence that Elon Musk is head of MS-13. And they release all these photos with like MS-13 tattoos on Elon Musk's face and knuckles and shit. And think he's been covering it up with secret tech that he's been developing. But now we know. And yeah, imagine being one of those guys that Elon Musk hired in Doge, and you've just fired like 25 veterans who worked at parks and stuff like that. And then you check your Twitter timeline and realize your daddy, Elon, just got murked. Right? Just burn the fucking bridge. Your job probably isn't long for this world. Oh, man. What are the fallout from this going to be? I don't know. But let's, enough yapping. Let's look at the Elon Musk timeline a little bit. Let's just, you know what? That's probably the best way to do this. And just kind of go through this, okay? And kind of reverse order here. And see what's going on. We got Elon Musk promoting. See, this is the power of social media, okay? Elon Musk, 220 million followers. He owns the platform. He can adjust the algorithm. He can choose what gets boosted, what gets deboosted, and everything. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to see a lot of stuff that had previously been deboosted suddenly come to light. Right? Suddenly it's going to be front page. Suddenly it's going to be hitting the algorithm like crazy. Here we go, brothers and sisters. This is Elon Musk signal boosting the shit out of this. 39,000 likes in 15 fucking minutes, gang. Okay, this is how this works. This is a video of 1992, Trump and Jeffrey Epstein having a party, hanging out. And again, if you've been paying attention, if you've been looking into this stuff at all, if you haven't been a cultist, you've known that stuff is out there. You've known it's real. You've known it's true. You know it's been a thing for a long time. This isn't a secret to most of us. But if you have been drinking the Kool-Aid, you make excuses, right? You'd be like, well, you could push that out of your mind. Oh, you know what? They were friends, but they never really hung out and never really partied. Again, we're going to keep going. The crash out is real, gang. The crash out is real. We have Elon Musk, 33 minutes ago, the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year. First of all, again, no shit, Sherlock, right? But it's not me saying it, so you can't have those weirdo cultists saying, oh, you just got Trump to syndrome. You got Elon Musk saying this shit now. It's crazy. Again, him signal boost. I didn't watch this shit, and I'm not going to because I don't want to care right now. But this, again, signal boosting with his little emojis. The relationship between Trump and Epstein is well established. Trump flew on Epstein's plane at least 7 times, so it's not clear he ever went to the island. You know, and this is what Trump said about Epstein in 2002. Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And yet, if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. Again, not a new quote. We've known about this. This isn't new. But what is new is it's getting signal boosted by the guy who owns the platform, right? It's being particularly pumped. Elon Musk, and I want to be clear about this. I want you to look at my face. I want you to look in my eyes when I say this, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Elon Musk is at war with President Donald J. Trump. You have the richest man, I think, in the world. I'm pretty sure he's the richest man in the world who owns the most influential social media platform in the world. And I don't think you could disagree that Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, is the most social media influential social media platform in the Western world. You have him going to war with the guy who's in charge of the federal government, President Donald J. Trump. Who we got winning here, gang? Thought that was Reddit? No, Reddit's not the most influential. Not by a long shot. Give me a second. Like I said, boys and girls, we're early today because I want to cover this before our panel. We got the Israel-Palestine debate coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for that. It's going to be great. But, yeah. Right now, I want to go over this. I want to get it out of my system. I want to cover this. This is glorious, gang. It's the pure vindication flowing through my veins right now. I cannot describe this feeling. Zephyr Hash for $5. Wick, I ask you again, what remains of a useful idiot when they stop being useful? Well, you know, the question answers itself. $2.49 says, here as a fan of Lonerbox, wish you a good stream. Well, thank you. Lonerbox will be here in a little less than an hour. We're covering the Elon shit first because, oh boy, it's glorious. Thank you for being here, Mr. Mark Tech, and thank you for the €250. Really appreciate you. Can't post enough popcorn. True. We'll go through it, but Elon Musk is calling, and there's a tweet, he's calling for the impeachment of President Donald J. Trump. Oops. We'll get to that. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, damn. Let's see my likes for a minute. A Boodalicious says, here's a Loner fan. I wish you a bad stream. Why do you wish me a bad stream? That's crazy. Yep, here we go. This is it. Ian Miles Chong. President versus Elon. Who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should replace him. Elon Musk saying yes. That's a indirect call, but it's a... Gang, the vibe shift is real. Okay? The vibe shift is real on this. Not just last month, gang. They were thick as thieves. Elon was being thanked for his service in the White House. Yes, there was some rumblings, some behind-the-scenes rumors that they weren't getting along. But they were easy to dismiss because there's always those rumors, right? Now we're seeing it was real all along. All those rumors, 100% true. Mm-mm-mm. NoCal Mike says, breaking news. The left collectively decides it wasn't a Nazi salute after all. Look, I was an early adopter. Look, Elon Musk is, look, to be clear, I still don't like Elon Musk. He's still a liar. He's still crazy. Not to be trusted. But boy, oh boy. I can't help but rooting him on right now. Let them fight. Let them. It's like watching the USSR versus Nazi Germany go at it, and you're like, I wish both could lose. I wish, in my heart of hearts, that both will lose. But no, I don't think. I don't think Elon's a Nazi, and I don't think he did a Nazi salute. But I've been on that horse for a while now, gang. And everyone's disagreeing with me, but they were all wrong, and I was correct. So. Oh, this is Musk just boosting Dittman. Dittman's got some funny memes, but eh. So, and we're gonna get to this because Trump hasn't been silent this whole time, right? Trump's been hitting back. Like, this is about an hour ago he said this, but he's been hitting back. So Donald Trump says this on True Social, and I don't have True Social, and I don't care enough to go it, so we're just going to go with the screenshots of it, right? He says, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Elon Musk strikes back, saying, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contract, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. And I want to be crystal clear on this, gang. I want to be crystal clear on this. Trump will try to defund and cancel Elon's government subsidies and contracts. Not because the contracts are bad or anything like that, simply because of Elon's viewpoint, of Elon's statements, of Elon publicly turning on him. Viewpoint discrimination. But we've known this. I've told you all this. I've preached this from the pulpit more times than I can count. Trump's a vindictive little man. He will come after you. He will come after your family. He will cancel you. He will use the full force of the federal government to target you if you speak out against him. Elon Musk is about to find out. This isn't an idle threat from Donald J. Trump. This isn't something he's just saying. This is something, he has a large pattern of this. He says it, and then the federal government that he controls goes to do his will. That tweet, that True Social, let's get it back up on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get it back up on the screen, right? Him saying the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. That's him making a call to action for the federal government to do just that. I will bet money that in the next couple weeks, you see that the federal government makes moves to do just that. Anyone want any takers? Any takers on this wager? Okay. Here's Elon Musk raising his eyebrow. Again, just a month ago, March 24th, President Trump on Elon Musk. Elon has never asked me for a thing. I mean, I got rid of the EV mandate, but he's never asked me for a thing. I think that's an amazing attribute. Elon is a patriot. We want to thank you very much for the job you're doing. This is Trump in a nutshell, gang. He will praise you if you obey, and if you disobey, he will target you with everything he's got. I don't know. Look, I don't believe Elon is that stupid. He had to have known this is who he's getting into bed with. He had to have known. If this is coming, if this type of behavior is coming as a shock to Elon Musk, then he's no genius. Okay? This is predictable. This was always going to happen, right? As soon as Elon had a major disagreement with Trump, Trump was going to target him with all he was worth. And to be clear, Elon's going hard, okay? Elon's going, he's crashing out, okay? He's not holding back. These bare knuckle boxing, okay? He's You know what? He's braver than Andrew Wilson, right? Because he keeps in the ring, and he could probably open the pickle jar, okay, or the olive jar, or whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, he's richest man on earth, controls the most influential social media platform on earth. It's gonna be messy, gang. Gonna be messy. Here's him dropping that big bomb. Here's Eric Berger, okay? He's I don't think he's any kind of Trump operative, and by that I mean I don't think he's officially in the government, at least not that I can find in short notice. But he's a big space guy, big Trumper. Says this would both, and here's he's quoting, like he's quoting this tweet right here, saying for the canceling of contracts. Donald Trump also said Elon was quote unquote wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. So here's Donald Trump saying that the reason Elon Musk is going crazy right now is because he took away the EV mandate. The problem here is Donald Trump is a liar. Elon Musk is a liar. I don't know who to believe. They're both liars. I don't know. Do you guys? I don't. Anyway, that's the story. That's what they're going with. And this is what Mr. Berger here is saying would end the International Space Station and simultaneously provide no way to safely deorbit it. And Elon Musk seems to be taking this as a bit of a challenge, saying this just gets better and better. Go ahead, make my day. Here's Elon Musk directly replying to Donald J. Trump's, or someone quoting Donald J. Trump's Truth Social, right? Saying that this claim by Trump that the reason Elon Musk is crashing out today is because he canceled the EV mandate is such an obvious lie, so sad. Do we have any MAGA in chat? Do we have any MAGA? Whose side you taking? Are you guys Team Trump or Team Elon? One's for Team Trump, two's for Team Elon. What do we think? Or are you guys laying low? Do I have any of my MAGA people here? I know I have some. Usually you guys are here to heckle me and stuff. I'm just real curious what y'all are thinking. Okay. Conservative liberalism says I'm not MAGA, but I'm Team Elon for this shit show. AKA Batozai says Elon isn't MAGA. Well, not anymore. Certainly. I don't want to talk with my mouth full. But I'm trying to eat while we get all this information out and we prep and stuff like that. Because again, I think this is good information. You need to have it. And I do have a panel in about 45 minutes. And so I have to, usually at this time, I wouldn't be streaming. I'd be eating and I'd be doing other things to get ready. So, bear with me. Mark Tech says the Tesla stock was down 50% today. So I guess Elon is full on ketamine now. Perhaps. So I'm not seeing any of my MAGA guys. Are you guys just, you know what? They're probably keeping their heads down, trying to figure out which way the wind is going to blow. But there are people on X, and we're going to get to that right now, who are taking sides. I saw I don't have it up, but the Misfit Patriot is obviously Team Trump. He's been making some you know what? I could probably pull that up. Give me a second, and we don't have to take my word for it, and I could probably get that for you right now. Hold on. Here we go. Let's see some of Bro's tweets. Here is him retweeting someone. And he's been on my show before. To be clear, on a personal level, I like Misfit Patriot. I think he's a genuine guy. I like that. I prefer genuine people. I think he's wrong politically on most things. But he today is Team Trump. He's retweeting Steven Crowder here, who is apparently also Team Trump, saying, as my good friend Razorfist has noted, Elon didn't jump on the Trump bandwagon until he was almost legitimately killed on live TV. And Elon still waited until Joe Biden dropped out. The American people voted for Donald Trump, not Elon. Again, some other Misfit Patriot reposts says from Nick Freitas says, well, I guess any hope of reconciliation between Elon and Trump is officially over. Hell of an accusation to make. It begs the question, did you know and not say anything? Or are you speculating? Because if it's a false accusation, it's one of the worst you can make. Gerald A. says, you can't make that claim and imply that President Trump was tied to Epstein in a meaningful way and come back from that. It's absolutely over for Musk. What a childish thing to do. Misfit Patriot directly saying, Elon was praising Donald Trump the whole time. He knew that Trump is the Epstein files. Someone take Elon's drugs away. This is getting effing ridiculous. It's effing Groyper behavior. Man, oh man, people are taking sides. But there are other people taking Elon's side. Konstantin Kisin, you guys know this guy. He's in the Trigonometry podcast. He's that guy. He says, what Elon Musk is doing is genuinely heroic. He will win no friends in politics and will be ostracized by the current administration, but he is totally right. We, the entire Western world, simply cannot go on pretending our way of life is sustainable. Historically, countries build up surpluses in peacetime and then go into debt to fight wars. We're going to more and more debt during peacetime. Clever economists will tell you this is sustainable. It is not, and someone has to do something about it. So, Konstantin Kisin, Team Elon, Misfit Patriot, and Steven Crowder and all them, Team Trump. Okay? Obviously, Elon Musk is reposting this guy with one of those Twitter polls. Who's right? Man, oh man. And again, as we go further down in the timeline, it gets a little less unhinged because Elon Musk is just mad about this big, beautiful bill. Okay? He's just going out, and what he's doing is he's putting out like tweets of long ago politicians such as Mike Johnson saying stuff about the debt and out of control deficit spending, and he's calling them out, right? Where's the John Thune of 2020? And he quotes John Thune, our nation is deeply, deeply in debt right now. Next year, our country will owe more than we produced for the first time since the end of World War II. That is a very bad place to be, right? He's just going through. He's just going through. Where's the Mike Johnson of 2023? And he's quoting Mike Johnson saying the federal debt has just topped $31.4 trillion, and the Congressional Budget Office now estimates federal spending for fiscal year 2023 will total $6 trillion, or more than $197,000 per second. That is not sustainable, right? And he just now I don't know what this fuck has to do with anything. Elon Musk is quoting stuff to say he's been consistent the whole time, right? Elon saying to get rid of all subsidies. We don't need the EV tax credit, blah, 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 right? And then he's posting memes about Trump actually increasing spending when he says he's going to cut spending. Woo, boy, oh boy, it's a full crash out, boys and girls. It's a full-on shit show today. Okay, that's my alarm, right? But that's okay. That's just warning me my stream's coming up in 40 minutes. I got to prepare. But we're here already. We're here right now. We're going through it. Oh, man, oh, man. No, I got the zoomies. The Mike Johnson of yesteryear is the current leader of the House, Speaker of the House. But he's not the same Mike Johnson of yesteryear. He suddenly is okay with deficit spending and huge jets and huge running up huge spending bills. And Elon Musk was pointing that out. Yes, he was pointing out the hypocrisy. 5:20 my time, brother. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, okay? Okay, Eastern Standard Time. Yes, Dijadi is correct to say, to be clear, the EV tax credit is an important focal point because that's why Trump says Elon broke. And again, Elon is providing evidence that in 2021, he was saying, get rid of it. We don't need it. $5 from Zephyr Hash. Thank you for the $5, sir. to say odds Elon supports a libertarian candidate in 2028, assuming there's an election. Will America have a libertarian as president? RFK, anyone? Well, Elon Musk is absolutely, and this is another tweet he made today. I think it's at the top of his timeline. He pinned it. He put out a poll, and we'll get to it. Yeah, it's right here. It says this. He says, is it time to create a new political... I voted in it because why not? It says, is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? This is 3 hours ago. He's leaving MAGA. Yeah, he's leaving MAGA, gang. I don't know if it... I've seen a lot of people with cope, okay? Super amounts of cope, saying that this is just like what's it called? False flag, a psyop, right? To make it seem that they're fighting. Nah, that's bullshit. That's cope. It's cope. You don't make an accusation like Elon did in a psyop. You do not do that. That is a line that even if you're just funning with your friends or you're beefing with your friends, there are certain things you don't say. There are certain lines you don't cross. One of those lines is calling someone a pedophile. You just don't. You do not. Elon does. It's a nuke, gang. He's nuked the bridge. There is no coming back from this. He cannot say that Donald J. Trump is on the Epstein list, is in the Epstein files, and that's why they've been covering it up, and then make good in a month from now, right? And apologize and come back. You can't do that. That's not how this works. The egos involved would never allow it. AKA Bato's Eye says Elon should have just stepped down as CEO of Tesla and focused on SpaceX and Twitter. Don't do copious amounts of ketamine, kids. I mean, man. What do we think the fallout from this is politically? Do we think that this moves the needle at all? I think it does. I'll tell you why. Without Elon Musk boosting MAGA and MAGA talking points and stuff on X, I think they don't get the traction that they need. Right? Because remember, the 2024 election was pretty close, actually. 2% difference in 3 states, and we would be all hail President Harris, right? Yeah, and I would say it's a minority, but it's a pretty sizable minority of people who were Trump fans because they were tech bros. And they were kind of on the Elon bandwagon and would just kind of go with Elon. They were the tech bro guys, right? I think that this splits that faction off. And I think that no longer does Donald Trump have basically free political campaigning and political ads on X. And I think that's going to make a big difference. I think that's going to be a shift. And I think that this breakup, right, this divorce, this war, whatever you want to call it, absolutely has ramifications for our political landscape, if you will. Again, apologies, I'm eating, and I know, but I'm hungry, gang, and I wanted to, You see a big migration to True Social over this? Nah, that's, again, it's like the people who said, oh, now that Elon's in charge, we're going to go over to Blue Sky. Yeah, if you did, but it's not going to matter. All the journalists, all the influence is still on X. That's the most influential platform. It's not ending anytime soon. DJ says, curious what happens to Doge and third-party influencers like Palantir? I don't know. That's a good question. MySpace? What about MySpace? You're just saying words, IK Batoza. You gotta explain. Oh, same fate as Twitter. You think it's gonna go the way of MySpace? I doubt it. It's possible, but I doubt it. Again, I don't underestimate the power of both huge amounts of money and influence, and Elon has both. And Elon's got a bug up his ass. It's personal for him. Whether it should be or not, I don't know, right? But it's absolutely personal for him. He's going to war right now. 5 Wick TV gifted memberships from Grassroots Hegemon. Thank you for the 5 gifted on this most glorious of days. Gang, it's not my birthday. It's not. But it's like my birthday. It feels like my birthday. It feels like Christmas. It feels like God in the heavens was looking down on me and said, you know what? The vibes for Wick are kind of off right now. Let's cheer him up a little bit. Let's up the dosage on the crazy for Elon and see what happens. And give my boy Wick a little bit of a treat. Roxfist says, I think Musk will help sink Trump, then go all in backing J.D. Vance. Ooh, that's a good question. Where does J.D. Vance land on this, you think, gang? J.D. Vance has got to be weighing his options right now, right? Like, he's looking at it. He's trying to... What J.D. Vance is doing is this, and I'll show you. Look at his fingers. He's putting it up, and he's trying to see which way the wind's blowing. Because I don't know right now. I don't know who's going to win this fight. Oh, a.k.a. Patozai with 5 Wick TV gift memberships. Oh, look at you guys go, giving me money, right? Not even, the panel hasn't even started yet, right? Thank you. Yeah, J.D. Vance is probably, is he going to go with mommy or daddy in the divorce? What do you think, gang? Which is going to get custody of Mr. Vance? Is it going to be... You know what? Trump's probably calling up J.D. Vance right now like, hey, J.D., I need you to go visit Elon Musk and give him the papal treatment, okay? Do the same thing you did to the Pope, okay? You know, get it done. And J.D. Vance is trying to figure out whether or not he should follow orders. Or if this is it. This is probably, I think, the most actual, the most real challenge to Trump's power on the right and influence on the right. This is way bigger of a challenge than fucking Dork Breath in Florida. What's that guy's name? You guys know who I'm talking about? The governor of Florida. Name's blanking for a reason. I can't tell. Why is his name escaping me? I'm smarter than this. I should know, right? The governor, not Marco Rubio. No, the governor, DeSantis. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I don't know why his name just was gone, but it was gone. Maybe it was deleted, right? I had to get it out of my head to make room for actual good information. I don't know. DeSantis, right? DeSantis wasn't a real challenger to Trump. He was never going to take that crown. That was never a real threat. I think Elon is actually a real threat to MAGA's influence. I think that, I have no idea if he will win this little fight, this little tiff that they're having, but I think he's got the best chance of doing it of anyone else, simply because of the position he's in. He controls the mic, okay? Oh, yeah. Hey, Patozai. ICE is gearing up right now for their most perilous mission. There's photos circling around right now. Here, I think we got one. Let me see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure I found it. Hold up. I tweeted a lot today. Yeah, here we go. This is a photo circling around. Just released, okay? Donald Trump had a breaking news, okay? There was a breaking news with the sirens and everything. Went on all major networks releasing this photo evidence, okay? ICE is gearing up as we speak to take down the most dangerous, notorious, illegal immigrants that the world has ever seen, okay? Yeah, this isn't something that Trump can ignore. He's got to respond, and he has been responding. But Dijadi, you're correct. Feuding with the leader of the country where your companies exist is pretty bold, especially since Trump has demonstrated that he doesn't give a shit. He will go after you, law be damned. Okay, um, though. I bet you $100 that when the inevitable lawsuits start flying, we don't hear Elon talk about activist judges anymore. We don't hear any of that shit. It's just so nice to look. This whole time, for the last couple months, I've been feeling like I've been taking crazy pills because I see this coming. I've seen this coming for a while, okay? This has been something I've been watching with one eye, and I'm being like, it's got to happen, but it never did. It never materialized, and I'm like, am I wrong? And I thought, like, did I get this one wrong? Did I call this one wrong? And I've been feeling like this disconnect because I was like, no, all the evidence points to this. All the evidence, I didn't expect the Epstein stuff. I didn't expect it to go this hard, right? And this fast. But I was like, no, there's got to be all the signs. Elon and Trump were clashing behind the scenes. You kept hearing rumors, kept hearing reports about that. They kept working at cross instances. I think the first kind of fissure was the H-1B visa debate, right? Where you saw Elon deboost and ban a bunch of Groyper accounts that were debating him on the H-1B visas, right? And you saw that kind of fracture beginning, or maybe that was just the first visible sign. I'm not sure. But again, this was months ago, back I think in, was it January or February? Months, as I said. And I was like, oh, it's not long for this world. But they kept praising each other. It kept going well. Or at least it seemed to be going well, at least from they both seemed to at least have, we all knew that Elon was going to not work there anymore, right? But I thought it would be amicable, or at least that they would present it as amicable, and they did. So again, I've been feeling wrong. I've been feeling like, okay, I'm going to eat crow on this one. I got this one wrong, and I was just going to be like, okay, fuck. But no, vindication, sweet, sweet vindication. I was right. I was correct. My process for identifying and collating information and processing it is correct. And the vindication is so sweet. It's so sweet. And it's flowing through my veins right now, okay? It's flowing through my veins like manna from heaven. I love it. I do. It's beautiful. Big, beautiful deportation list. I don't know. Look, how far Trump's going to take this is a question. That's a real question. Trump, I think, and I'm going to make this prediction now, that Trump starts going after his financials. He's going to use the federal government to go after his financials. He's going to cancel those contracts with SpaceX. He's going to cancel those contracts with Tesla and all these other things. Tesla is going to be frozen out as a company. SpaceX is going to be frozen out from any federal contracts going forward. And it's going to be petty time, right? That's the least. That's the sure thing. The question is, will Trump start investigations? Will Trump start investigations and accusations of fraud? Are we going to see fraud, waste, and abuse accusations towards Mr. Musk? How hard is Trump going to go? I don't actually know. That's what we're going to find out. Again, my prediction, bare minimum, goes after his financials. But whether or not he uses lawfare, I don't know. What are you thinking? What are the thoughts of my little crew here? My Wick enjoyers, the ones who tune in on my off hours, okay? You are the true heroes, by the way. Okay? I would never betray you. I would never betray you, my dear Wickers. Ever. Not unless they paid me a lot of money. But it have to be a lot. Wouldn't just be for $50. I need at least 100. Yep, rip any NASA contracts Elon has. Code Matt says, I will never be able to send Wick to Mars. True. That's the problem. Musk could buy you. Look, if Musk wants to buy me, I have a rate. Okay? Like, true. I mean, like, bro could literally drop $1 billion and not feel it. Wonder if Bezos is going to take the opening of Trump's best friend. Ooh, we'll see. Maybe Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg might slide on in there. Who knows? This is just, look, this is just another evidence, more evidence, I should say, of just the incompetence of this administration. This is high school shit. This is unprofessional as hell. From all players involved. From Elon Musk, from Donald Trump, from everyone commenting on it. It's unprofessional as hell. If I was running a business and my employees were acting like this, I would fire every fucking one of them. That's unacceptable behavior. But this is who's governing us now. Let that sink in. These are the people who are in charge of your fate, of your future. $20 from Glasshouse Hegemon to say, how do you feel about my political strategy of putting literally everyone in prison? Oh, well, $20, I feel okay about it. $50, I'd feel even better about it. For $100, I'll canvas for you, buddy. That's a joke, by the way. I wouldn't canvas for 100. I'd need significantly. But no, it's a joke. It's gonna get clipped, isn't it? It's gonna get clipped by the cuckmen and stuff, and be like, see, we knew the whole time he was getting paid for his opinions. What am I missing? Let's see if Mr. Musk has made any more tweets since we've been on this big beautiful crash out. Nope, no new tweets. He's stopped. Last tweet was an hour ago. Oh, maybe he's got some replies going. Let's see. Oh, nope. Nothing I can see. Nothing new, at least. Seems to be, I wonder if someone took his phone away. I saw some people on the right, because I follow some right-wing accounts just to see what they say, and some of the people I like on the right, have interesting opinions. I disagree with them, but I like the back and forth, and I like to see what they're thinking. We're saying things like, someone needs to take their phones away. Someone needs to tell them to stop posting. Those fucking fun police motherfuckers, okay? This has been one of the most enjoyable Twitter experiences I've had in a long time. I'm not gonna lie, right? This has been gold, okay? This has been pure joy to watch unfold live. This is better than reality TV, okay? And on the one hand, it's funny, it's Schadenfreude, however you fucking say that. It's all these things. But on the other hand, it's horrifying. It really is horrifying that our world leaders, people in charge of the greatest country on earth, are acting like children. Egotistical, narcissistic children. It's insane. I don't know how you can defend it. I just don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, are you guys excited for the Lonerbox and Tali and Doobie and Primecayes debate in a minute here? Let me make sure that they have all their stuff they're needed and I'm not missing anything. Give me a second. Let me give them the link. Sorry about this, gang. I usually do this off stream, but like I said, we're early. Like I said, we're here a little early today. So I'm gonna give them a link to the server in case they don't got it. Give them instructions of how to sign in. You guys get a little peek behind the scenes today, I guess. I'm not gonna show you the chats or anything, but you get to hear me type and be like, click the link, accept the rules, jump backstage, all that. Accept rules, jump backstage, 6 p.m. East, and I'll pull you in. I love you all. Happy Elon Trump Civil War Day. Beautiful. Okay, that's done. Oh, did Truth Social crash? Did Truth Social crash? Okay, it's still up. Man, you guys, look here. It's moving fast. This is a problem with these things. Like when you're in a fast-moving situation where you got things coming from all sides and all angles all at once, this is when misinformation can sneak in, right? This is when a lot of bullshit gets put into the discourse. One of the things I've had to do today, because I couldn't believe it, is I had to like triple check pro-social posts and tweets to see if they were real, right? Because I saw dozens of them just pop up on my feed almost instantly. I was like, no, this can't be real. No, he didn't really say that. No, that's not true. And so I had to go and I had to check because I was very suspicious of the information because it confirmed all my priors. And this is the thing you'll realize about me is if it feels too good to be true, I am very suspicious of it. And today, all day, has felt just too good to be true. Like, what's going on? What's happening? Am I still dreaming? Is this actually real? Is someone pulling my leg? What is going on? Vitae Mecca? Elon Musk. Here, I'll just bring up the tweet. I think this sums it up. Okay? This sums it up. This tweet right here. Time to drop the really big bomb. This is from Elon Musk. Yes, the actual Elon Musk with 220 million followers. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump. 632,000 likes, 224,000 reposts, 109,000 comments. I don't even know the views. I can't even see the views, right? 135K bookmarks. It's a civil war, gang. This is how it began. Look, Tim Pool and co. were worried about Putin escalating and dropping a nuke. Elon Musk beat Putin to it and dropping this truth nuke. Really big bomb indeed. Again, the bridge is burned, gang. I can't stress this enough. It's just gone. The bridge is gone. It's vaporized. It's dust. Oh, how can you see the views roll of the dice? I didn't see anything on there. Anyway. $2 from Radiel say, it's a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day, gang. Okay? It's crazy. I have the zoomies, I guess. Conservative liberalism said earlier. Kind of. Again, it's like pure, raw vindication. Pure and raw vindication. Did I just miss it? Rock's Fist? Oh. Yeah, I saw a few joke tweets that were pretty funny. One said something like Vladimir Putin has offered to help negotiate a peace between Elon Musk and Donald J. Trump. A ceasefire or something like that. I thought that was funny. Good morning, Vietnam. Zero Fox, maybe my eyesight's bad. I do wear glasses. It's very true. Very possible my eyesight's just bad. Oh boy. Well, we got 10 minutes till they all show up. What more do we have to say? This is the first tweet I saw that kind of this is what I woke up to and saw, right? I tweeted about it, right? But this is what I saw on my timeline. Here's Elon Musk quote tweeting Donald J. Trump from 2013 saying, "I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I am embarrassed." And Elon Musk calling his bitch ass out, saying wise words. And me commenting, "Oh, they're fighting." And I got pretty good engagement for this, right? Little did I thought this was going to be the news, right? I thought like, oh, this was the jab and that was it. And we were going to talk about it. And we're going to go over a little bit on another day and talk about the Elon Musk Trump divorce, right? And this was going to drag out for weeks. Might have escalated, might not have, right? But that's what I suspected at the time. So I made a tweet about it, went about my day. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I kept seeing more and more and more. And Elon Musk was going crazy on it, okay? Crazy. And obviously, when he dropped the Epstein bomb, I was like, nah, we got to stream early today. Okay, we got to stream early today. Grassroots hegemon for $20 more. Look, we can all go to prison, but it'll be a beautiful prison. And the only support allowed is frisbee golf. Absolutely beautiful. Do you guys like frisbee golf? Are you frisbee golfers? Maybe I'm gonna lose a fan, but I've never been a frisbee golf fan. Just not. I like volleyball. If I had to pick a sport, it'd be volleyball. Icebean says, Wick, did you cause this breakup? Fess up. It's true. I am the operative. That's what they call me. Not Wick, not my real name, but the operative. Because I go in there and I get shit done. I went in. I started talking to Lex, my buddy Lex Friedman. Started whispering in his ear. Okay. And Lex Friedman was like, I should tell my friend Elon Musk. So Lex Friedman, Wick Orbiter, right, goes to Elon Musk, repeats what he heard me say, and Elon Musk, it enrages him. How could he? How could Donald J. Trump be so ungrateful after all Elon Musk has done for him? And it escalated from there. Yes, it's me, ladies and gentlemen. It was me the whole time. It was me the whole time. Oh, I should tweet that out. That's good. No Cow Mike says, rumor is that from the bottom of his heart, Lex wants peace. True. I'm going to tweet that out, actually. Lex Friedman going to start to call for peace talks between having both of them on his podcast to heal the divide. Boom. Tweet it out. Thanks for the idea, No Cal Mike. Thanks for the idea. a good tweet. Solid tweet. Oh. Oh man, sorry again. I'm just making sure everyone's still on their way. Oh. It had to happen today. Today was, look, I was super excited about this panel today. I still am, to be clear. But this, I don't know. It feels like almost anticlimactic to talk about Israel-Palestine right now. Just a little anticlimactic. So I suppose with the guests we got on today, it's going to be anything but. I do enjoy, I like every single guest today. And that's not often I can say that, okay? It's not often I can say I like all my guests that are coming on. But today I do. Today I'm a big fan, actually, of Prime. Big fan of Lonerbox. I like Tali and I like Doobie, okay? So we'll see. I disagree with all of them on various things, but really happy that we are able to put it together and get this show on the road, right? But boy, oh boy, it feels like anticlimactic. I want to, like, the Elon Musk stuff is just there. It's out there. But I guess we can make constant allusions to it during the panel, right? Like Israel-Palestine, which is the second most hateful conflict in the world right now, after the Elon Musk and Donald J. Trump divide. We can make little comments like that. That's how we'll do this, okay? This is how we'll go through the day. Oh, man. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. No way it's going to stay on topic. True. Zephyr Hash says more brain cells have died in the past few hours than all Gazans and Palestinians combined across 3 years. Also true. Yeah, Hector Gaming. Trump and Elon Musk are going at it. And here's the thing. Most people are only seeing the view from Elon's perspective on this. Most people aren't on Truth Social, okay? And that's where Donald Trump tweets, or truths, or whatever the fuck they call it. So most people aren't even seeing his side of the story. They're seeing some clips of his statements, but most people are seeing this from from Elon's perspective. $2 from Zephyr Hash. Wick, Elon versus Trump. Who is right? Panel when? Hopefully soon, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully soon. I reached out to a couple people already. We'll see what I can put together. But we might have to do a Saturday stream, honestly, because I already have a guest lined up for tomorrow. Diane Yap. That should be fun. But yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. Let me see. Are people here yet? Some of them are. Should I pull them in now, boys and girls? Boys and girls? Should I pull them in now? Or should I make them wait a little bit? Oh, I can already imagine the South Park episode. True! You know what? We'll just pull them in. Do I have any Musk bros in my audience? I don't know if they were Musk bros or I don't know if they were Trump bros. Because there's been a lot of overlap. I guess we're going to find out. Okay, anyway, let's get this done. Let's pull some people in. Hello, you guys are live. You are live. We are here. AKA Batozai says there are only like 5 Musk bros. Or he only knows 5 Musk bros. I don't know. Tali, you're muted on your end, by the way.
Can you hear me?
I can now. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Mr. Wick?
It's been a beautiful day. It's been a beautiful day. Okay.
It's been a day.
What's your thoughts on the Elon Musk Trump civil war? What are your thoughts here? Give it to us.
Um, I'm reticent to praise such erratic behavior. However, much of this seems principled on Elon's behalf. These are things that he cares about for whatever reasons we want to attribute to him. So I think this is very interesting. I'm a little scared to see the fallout and what the split is going to look like.
See, I understand, but rather than fear, excitement flows through my veins. Vindication flows through my veins. And I think I've said this before.
Yeah.
I have never been more vindicated in my life. Well, that's not true. When one of my detractors actually got arrested by Chris Hansen, that was pretty vindicating. But this is close. This is nigh
Up
unto
there.
it. Okay, this is nigh like unto it. Watching something I knew was going to happen actually finally happen. Beautiful. I know you're on the right of things, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this from that perspective? Like, do you see anything actually happening because of this? Do you see this affecting your party at all? Do you see this having any kind of impact on Trump voters? Maybe an Elon Musk Trump civil war kind of fractures the party. What do you see from this?
Hey, before you do that,
I mean, the
can you,
Republican Party.
Hold
can
on.
you hear me?
Yes,
Testing,
Prime,
testing.
Prime. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful
just
day.
making
Welcome
sure.
to the show. We're just doing a little pre-talk. We're live, by the way. But
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I got like a fan going on here. Do you hear anything in the background?
I don't.
No.
No? Good. All right.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
No, go on with the Elon Musk stuff, please.
So, I mean, I can't say that it's my party. I'm not a Republican. I've never been registered as a Republican. My
Sure.
first time voting Republican was in 2024. With all that said, yeah, I don't know. Like, do I have concern that this is going to break apart parts of the base? If the base means the coalition of people with very different beliefs who came together to vote for Trump in 2024, then yeah, it seems like that's like Trump in 2024. Then MAGA is not for the Republicanism. So I think, in theory, I mean, I guess perhaps the best case scenario would be that this alienates enough Republicans from MAGA and they decide to double down on their fiscal conservatism and things of that nature. But there's a lot of the term left yet, so I don't know.
Do you think there's any traction or any seriousness to Elon's accusations about Trump being on the Epstein list?
It would be it. Well, again, back to the first thing I said. This is super erratic behavior. So it would be a really crazy accusation to make if it's not true, but it also shouldn't be a very surprising accusation. And I don't know exactly, like, my understanding is there's a lot of people who are on the Epstein lists and logs that does not necessarily make them complicit in some type of child trafficking sting. So
Yeah, but it does speak to something when the accusation, because that isn't the only accusation made, because Elon made two accusations in that. Is that one, Trump was on the Epstein list, and two, that's why they've been covering it up. That's why the Trump administration has not released it yet, has covered it up, has sought to distract and dissuade people from looking into it by saying, "Oh, Epstein actually did kill himself," et cetera, et cetera. I think that does point to it doesn't look good. Let's say that.
yeah, I agree with you. I just I think Epstein killed himself. So, like, I think that's not enough. I think there's almost like two things that might be conflated here, and maybe it's to the benefit of Donald Trump to conflate them. But there's conspiracy around Epstein's death, and then there's whatever the Epstein files, quote unquote, looks like, right? Whatever these logs and whatever details that the public doesn't know about his crimes. It's unfortunate that if Donald Trump is truly withholding the Epstein files, the details about the crimes and the logs, because it would look bad for him in some way, even if not criminal. That's really unfortunate because it casts doubt on the conspiracy around his death, and I don't think that helps anyone. I'm not inclined to think that Kash Patel was lying on Trump's behalf, saying that Epstein. I think there are people who wanted to find evidence that Epstein did not kill himself, and I believe that they didn't find it. So,
Okay. Well, we got the gang all here. We were well, so first of all, you're all live, by the way, right now. Everyone's live and on stream. We've just been happy Trump and Elon Civil War Day, Lonerbox. Happy Trump Elon Civil War. What do you think about all this? I'm really curious.
I'm just looking forward to Trump changing his opinion on white genocide in South Africa against white South Africans and him actually supporting it now.
I saw a joke earlier about someone saying that ICE was gearing up currently for its most daring raid yet, and it will be interesting to see, because I think this is actually going to happen. Memes aside, Trump actually going over after Elon's financials. Like I don't see any contract that SpaceX has or Tesla has with the U.S. government. I don't see those being a thing a month from now. I think those go away. My question is, will Trump open investigations into Elon Musk? Because Elon Musk has made some wild accusations, and I don't think Trump is one to just let those things slide, right?
No.
Beautiful. Fair enough. Okay. That said, Prime, you got a camera for us today? And Doobie, you got the frog today for us?
Oh yeah, one sec.
Yeah, give it up and get it up. And while they do, a little bit of a...
I'm shy.
It's okay. It's okay to be shy. I'm shy too. We're going to do a little bit of a subject shift. Apologies, right? Today, I've brought you all together to talk about Israel and Palestine. It's been out of the news for a bit, but I think it's still important to talk about, still important to discuss, because there's still things happening over there that bear scrutiny, that are worth discussing. So tonight we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about, is Israel committing a genocide or an ethnic cleansing, whatever you want to call it, in Gaza, and what should be done about it? Are Israel's actions in Gaza at all justified, and to what extent? And should the United States decouple or distance itself from Israel, and how much? And we got some great guests to talk about it. We got some great people to come and discuss it and debate it. And let's get right into it. We're going to start by tossing the mic to Miss Tali here. Give us your opinion. Give us your thoughts. Open us up. Tell people who you are, why we should listen to you, and what you think about the subject. And we'll go in. Go ahead, Tali.
sorry, I was muted. Hello, my name is Tali Bots, on Twitter at TALIBOTZ, and hopefully here on YouTube soon enough with my own incredible content for you all. I'm going to try to answer those three questions that you put out very succinctly. Is Israel committing a genocide / ethnic cleansing? Genocide, no. Is ethnic cleansing possible here? Sure, that's something that looks like is possible in some of the plans that have been put forward for what the end of this war should look like. Is it just for Israel to carry out this war? Yes, I think the cause of war is clear, and the threat still present and relevant. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be critical about the way that the war is being waged. And three, should the United States decouple itself from Israel? No, certainly not. I don't see how it helps the United States or Palestinians, for that matter, to get rid of any type of leverage that the United States might have over the Israeli government. I think there are plenty of strategic, whether that be sanctions or limiting aid, that could be helpful and useful into changing the landscape of the Israeli political scene right now, but I don't think that simply cutting off all aid to Israel is going to help advance the situation for the Palestinians at all. I think, in fact, it might have the complete opposite effect.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, no stranger to my channel, Doobie. Uh-oh.
Hi. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it makes sense to just cut off all aid immediately, or all funding immediately. I think that that would probably be like you're kind of like going to the most extreme option, like right up front, which I don't think gives you any wiggle room to bargain. But I would say that it does make sense to stop sending missiles, weapons, anything for armaments, anything that can be used to blow people up in Israel or Gaza. I think it makes sense to encourage the EU to do the same thing, and to start putting pressure on Israel to take the ceasefire proposals that Hamas has agreed to repeatedly. And when that happens, to stop undermining those ceasefires like they did the last one. And if they don't do that, I think you can escalate from there, right? Which might include eventually the stripping of all like U.S. support for Israel. But I don't think you should jump there instantly, of course.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Next up, it's been a bit, but we're glad to have him back. Lonerbox, please.
Sure. Okay, so for the first question of is it genocide, I'm going to say no. I think when we talk about genocide as a term, I think it's very seldom these days being used as the legal term that it was intended to be practiced. It seems to be more of a political term, a signal of a certain like moral stance that you have, or just kind of like a weapon. If you look at the way that the term genocide has been used in the past and throughout case law, it is very, very specific. It is very restrictive, actually much to the annoyance of a lot of human rights organizations that are now trying to push this claim. If you look at, for example, Amnesty or other accusations of genocide against Israel, more than one of them actually have complaints about the current practicing of the law because they think it doesn't work for their case. They want to actually change the practice of the law and the precedent, as well as just say that Israel's doing this. There are events that happened like 100 years ago that historians and other people don't actually agree whether or not they were genocide even to this day. It seems very strange that people would jump onto calling Israel's actions that now when we still don't even know what the civilian combatant ratio is. Hamas have never actually given any official statement on how many soldiers they've lost. We have no idea if 10% of the deaths are civilian or if 30 or 40 or 50 or 1% of them. So I think there's a lot of very, very important data that we are not getting from this war. And actually, Israel is partly to blame for this. But I just think drawing that conclusion from the information we have now seems far more politically than factually motivated. As for, is Israel doing the right thing in this war? Do they have a right to do this? Well, I think broadly, Israel does have a right to wage war against Hamas. Hamas made a very specific choice on October 7th to do what they did. And then they took their hostages and ran back into the strip and went under their massive tunnel network. And basically, in no ambiguous ways, basically said, if you want to get to us, then you're going to have to cut through an entire city to do it. Israel obviously said yes. That does not preclude Israel from committing war crimes. That does not force them to carry out disproportionate strikes or to blockade or anything else. But as far as the goal of getting rid of Hamas as a political and military entity, I think that is completely justified. Hamas have made no indication that they'd be willing to accept anything beyond a temporary peace. Their intention is to destroy Israel through an endless war of attrition. They have said this over and over again. If Israel withdraws from Gaza and leaves Hamas in power, they will build back up in the exact same way. They'll have learned a few lessons and they will try again. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but they will try again. The return to status quo is completely untenable. Should the US decouple from Israel? Absolutely not. I think in terms of aid that is being spent in ways that people can say is criminal or is unworthy of actually being received, then that can be done. I think it's worth these countries reviewing maybe which weapons or which particular shipments are being used in unlawful ways. We do this with other countries all the time. Israel is actually a lot more willing to share intel and military information with trusted partners than they are with the UN. So it wouldn't be too hard to check that. Overall, though, it still remains the fact that America benefits from their relationship with Israel. There's a mutually beneficial relationship. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. And two, aid to Israel is leverage. With America's aid to Israel, we live in a world right now where you can look at polling on this, that if Israelis get a proposal about what to do in the conflict and they believe that proposal has come from the United States, the proposal becomes more popular. The United States has a lot of sway in this conflict. They always have. They haven't used it as much as they should, in my opinion, but getting rid of aid when you have a country that can actually be leveraged and swayed into better positions by aid just seems like a waste to me.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. A lot to get into. We'll get into it very shortly. Last but certainly not least, first in my heart, Primecayes. Welcome to the show. Tell people who you are, what you do, what are your thoughts?
Hey, friend. Thanks for inviting me. Always good to see you, as always. And welcome to everyone else. I absolutely think that Israel is engaged in war crime. I don't think there's any question about the ethnic cleansing. I personally certainly think that they have genocidal intent. Whether it is a war crime or not, we can leave it up to the courts to decide later on. But in terms of should the U.S. Decouple, absolutely, 100%. But how that actually occurs, what steps we should take in that process. Should we decouple immediately? Should we deny aid immediately? Should we, put sanctions in? That's up for debate. So I don't know yet. Though I can put forward some ideas during this debate. But yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. If you could turn your mic up just a couple hairs, that would be helpful.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for being here. And yeah, let's just gonna get into it. So a lot of people are saying that either decouple slowly, decouple quickly, and some of you are saying that we need to keep that relationship for leverage. Why would we? What leverage, at least in the last since October 7th, do you think has been successfully applied by America?
Them getting aid in after October 7th. It seemed to be the case that according to I don't think that many people disagree with this anymore. It seemed that the Israeli government were intent on holding off aid for, we have no idea how long, until Blinken and the Biden administration basically pushed them into letting aid in and drawing up a plan. I think the plan was agreed upon on October 18th or 19th, give or take. And had there not been that pressure from Blinken, I believe it was a 9-hour conversation that they had that resulted in that decision being made. Had it not been for that, we have no idea, because again, Israel is of the position of Geneva Conventions, I think it's at 23 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, where they basically believe that if there's a risk of aid getting diverted, say, to Hamas, then they're not under an obligation. That's what Israel believes, okay? That's what these people in the right-wing government believe. So had it not been for American support, we might have not seen that for a very long time after the beginning of the war.
Yeah, so I think that's fair to say, but I think it's also fair to say that there were cases under Biden, definitely under Trump, where this leverage hasn't been used properly. So even under Biden, right, toward the end of Biden's term, there was a Secretary of State memo that was leaked, or the State Department memo that was leaked, where they were pressuring Israel to give more aid, right, to let in more aid because they'd reduce aid levels. And they gave them I think a 60 or 90-day window for that aid to come in, or for them to address this issue and to get aid to up to their legally obligated levels of aid. And they went through this window, and Israel did not do this. The end of this window, Israel had not met its obligation, but there were no consequences. And the Secretary of State Blinken was pressured on this. Biden was pressured on this. I watched a lot of press conferences with Matt Miller, I think his name is, talking about this, being questioned about this. Just kind of gave this kind of weaselly answers, got around it, and they're still discussing it, but no consequences for not adhering to U.S. law on this, which is that they need to let the aid in at the levels that they're obligated to let it in. Since Trump, this obviously gotten much worse, right? So I think that and to say something earlier, you said something earlier that I don't think is true. It's like half true. So as far as I know, Hamas agreed last year to give up control of Gaza, civilian control of Gaza, to be clear. And I think it was like in early last year, maybe like March or April. This year, they've said again that they will give up civilian control of Gaza. Right, they're willing to do this as part of a ceasefire deal, but they are saying, to be clear, that they want to maintain a military presence. Right, they're not agreeing to disarm yet. For that to happen, they're saying they need to reach. They need to some kind of two-state solution. They need the pre-1967 borders, yada yada. All these things that are not going to happen. Right, so which makes it very complicated, I'm sure, because there's I can see why Israel would not want Hamas to be armed and to be an active force within there. But the reality is that they are giving at least some concession, right, that they're willing to give up civilian control. So I don't know. I think that I think there is a genocide. I agree with God knows how many human rights organizations at this point, how many governments, how many scholars. I agree with all these people that there is a genocide. But even if you think it's just an ethnic cleansing, if there's an ethnic cleansing happening, and there's a resistance group, quote unquote, from their perspective, within the area that's being ethnically cleansed, while Israeli politicians are giving Nazi-style speeches about cleansing this area, why should we expect them to give up their arms? Because from their perspective, I mean, I'm sure you can see if they could feel, hey, if we give up these arms, there's no reason they wouldn't ethnically cleanse even more and do more damage. And right now, the fear of us being here with these weapons is what keeps them from going further. So
This
Pick
Yeah,
one of
Lonerbox, you want to go?
Mm.
Okay.
I can go into the rapid fire, but okay, no, fuck, I'm gonna do that. Okay, so first of all, I will always forever tip my hat off to how good Hamas are at manipulating the media and Western opinion. The fact that they would literally say we'll give up civil control, but we'll keep our weapons, and again, also attached to Hamas's demand is an Israeli withdrawal. Who is back in political control day 2? In that situation, it's Hamas. They have the arms, okay? They are never giving, and as far as them saying two-state solution, 6-7 borders, everything, Hamas has never said two-state solution, to be clear. They've never committed to it being a solution. They've committed to 2 states. That's it, 2 states for now. It's back to their 2017 charter. You can look at that as well, when they say that 2 states is only a temporary measure. It's not mutually exclusive, with their goal to ultimately take over the entire territory. They see 2 states as a temporary springboard that puts them in a better position to bargain or fight for more later. That's Hamas's position. Hamas are not going to just have how that even work? They would be like just a militia just running around Gaza, and not with what? Are they going to change any goals?
Yeah, they'll stop picking up the trash, but they're going to keep all of their arms. That doesn't.
They've never said
I'll
they'll
give you
give
an
up any.
example.
They've never said they'll give up any
example.
goals. They've never said They've never said they're going to relinquish their desire to destroy Israel. And also, the second thing about them just being there with their arms because they're afraid of the population being ethnically cleansed. One, if any ethnic cleansing that would happen in Gaza will depend on other countries. The only way that anyone can leave Gaza is if Egypt opens the border, or if some third party comes from the sea and takes them away on boats, or if Israel, God forbid, lets people take refuge in the Negev desert. So Hamas keeping their arms is at best in their world, you're delaying that, and that's it, right? Hamas is not keeping their arms because they're trying to keep Palestinians from getting kicked out of Gaza. They're keeping their arms because keeping this war going is not actually politically and on their terms hurting them all that much. Hamas will talk about how it's an achievement now that countries like European states are turning their backs on Israel slowly and gradually. They are celebrating that. They're talking about the death toll and how it's a necessary sacrifice to undermine Israel and to put it into the status of pariahhood. So I don't know why people try to infer all these motivations from Hamas when they are actually more than clear about what they want themselves. Sorry.
Yeah, I think what's happening is you're inferring motivations from them. So they've given their motivations, right? They say, hey, this is what we want to agree to demilitarize and become a political party. They've joined talks where they said that I think they agreed to even the PA, or even like a multinational, like a Arab Security Administrative Force would come in and rule the area, right? To control the area militarily, right? With Hamas still there, yes, but they would not be in control, either in civilian control, and they would not have military control of the area. And then eventually, if like what they're saying is eventually if there's some kind of an agreement, some kind of like long-term peace and borders that are established with Israel and Palestine, and the state is formed, then they'll agree to form a political party, which I think is their right, and it's if Gazans want to support that, that's their right too. But if the goal is to have Hamas disarm, that's the way to do it. So you're saying that actually this is all a lie on their part, and long term they just want to continue to attack Israel. Well, I think you're
Okay,
you're
I'm
reading into
confused.
their
I
intentions.
think I know.
That,
Okay, I'm confused. I think
I'd
I know
like
why you're
to-
doing this, but
I'd like to
at first,
jump in.
wait. At first, I heard from you that they were going to keep their arms, but then give up political control. But now you're saying
Civilian
they're going
control.
to civilian control. But now you're saying they're going to disarm, but stay in part of a multi-faction party.
So no, what I'm saying is that giving up civilian control. So for
And
example,
after
I'm
Doobie,
sure
we're gonna
you.
get Prime in here because Prime's been trying.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure you saw that speech by Smotrich where he talks about attacking Hamas's civilian infrastructure, right? Like the ministers and agriculture ministers and things like this. I think he says like the money changers or whatever. So these people are Hamas, right? They're considered, I mean, they're part of the Hamas government, but they're civilian members of the Hamas government. So these offices, these positions would be transferred over to a group that is not Hamas. Hamas would give up control of these positions. But yes, after this happens, which in the current ceasefire deal, or the last ceasefire agreement that they agreed to, which Israel I think rejected, they will retain their weapons. They will be a military force in the area, where I think almost no other military force exists on the Gazan side. There are like criminal gangs that are there though. And then long term, if Israel wants Hamas to entirely disarm, right, and move out of this resistance militant organization position that they have, Israel needs to do a few things, which is one, establish a second state, a Palestinian state, with agreed upon borders that are not violated. So that's one. And then there's like a whole list of other things that they want from Israel for them to disarm and then become a political party among other political parties within Gaza.
We're gonna get Prime in here. I know Tali wants, and we're gonna let Tali respond, and then we'll keep going. Go ahead, Prime.
Thank you so much. So I haven't heard of Hamas boasting about like the death toll and how it's to their advantage. But if you have sources, I'd love to take a look. I just haven't heard that. But in terms of
You don't think Hamas is motivated to have as high civilian casualty numbers as possible?
the destruction of Israel's standing could not have been done by foreign actor. This was all Israel's fault. So in that case, if they said they are boasting about a political victory, well, then I would have to agree with them because clearly that's the case, right? The world is turning against them as it should. But in terms of what my friend Doobie was referring to, so Hamas has put forth, various plans, but you don't have to, trust Hamas, right? You can trust Israel's ally, Egypt. Egypt has put forth a recovery plan, which mirrors very much what Doobie was talking about, in which they would put in a technocratic administration over Gaza, right? This is a peace plan. Technocratic administration over Gaza run by the PA, right? And also assisted by the Arab world, right? That they would also administer the state, and then engage in a reconstruction plan. And all of this would sideline Hamas. Now, in terms of like taking away their arms, I don't know about that, right? I don't know if that plan necessarily calls for that, but that is a clear first step. So if you're saying that, hey, and also this plan also calls for UN security forces to be there. So if you're worried that if Hamas doesn't disarm immediately, then you could trust in the UN having security forces right there, the Arab world having security forces right there, your allies having security forces right there to actually take control of the area and secure it.
Tali, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to
UN
say,
security forces have never fled that area before. Go ahead, Lonerbox.
Yeah, I'm just going to say something that's like unambiguously true, right? So Sinwar is very well documented to have said that he saw these deaths as necessary sacrifices, civilian deaths. Other Hamas leaders and spokespersons have described them as like they are tactical and strategic losses. We've had another one basically talking about how like they've kind of it's not even like that much of a loss because they've also, in his words, produced 50,000 babies in the Strip at the same time that they've lost 50,000 people. We've had, we've had Hamas leaders who are quite clear about this. And again,
sources.
as for the question
I'm
of
not saying
whether
you're lying. So I'm not saying that you're lying. Okay. I'm just saying I haven't heard it. But if you have sources,
you could Google. He gave you names, so you could just.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So it's not.
I'll put it in the group chat. It's okay. So second, you can look at an interview with a Hamas spokesperson on, I think it's CNN, but it's a face-to-face interview. He deliberately like squirms at the question of disarming, okay, and giving up. Like they've even said that like disarmament is a red line. So I don't really know what world we're living in where Hamas doesn't renounce anything ideological about liberating the whole river to the sea, about carrying on the conflict, about still standing by the decision on October 7th, like every single chance they get. One senior leader saying they want to do it over and over again. Khaled Mishal saying that they have never accepted a two-state solution. Khaled Mishal, who's supposed to be the voice who wrote the 2017 charter. He's supposed to be the moderating voice, and he still says that. So I don't really know what I'm inferring when I say that Hamas's entire strategy here is to hold out for as long as they can, let Israel get wrecked in public opinion around the world, and then if they can get Israel out before they're defeated, you remain the armed group in Gaza so that they can just build up and try again. I don't see how any of this is an inference. I need to see something that they've said that makes you think otherwise.
Well, you're inferring. What I'm saying is that you're inferring past the deals that they've agreed to, the public positions that they've taken recently, and what I'm curious about, because I think I agree with you.
You made two different claims. You made two different claims. First, you made the claim that they were willing to disengage civilly, but they would maintain their military infrastructure and their arms. And then you made a completely separate claim that they would be willing to allow in some other type of military, and then they would reconstitute themselves as a political party, which also just brings us like right back to the beginning, and that's going to put us right back that's not two different claims. That all of us here agree is completely unacceptable. But this, I think, a big meta problem that we're having here, that I think people in the West do a huge disservice to the Palestinian people, is even if we thought some of these ideas were good plans, which I do not think they are complete non-starters. And so they are not possible. Israel is never going to agree to some type of ceasefire that leaves Hamas in control militarily, but not civilly. It's the complete inverse of everything that people who defend Israel have been told throughout this entire war, that you can't just assume that because somebody works for Hamas that they are actually a terrorist. People were constantly reiterating that Hamas is the government infrastructure there. These are the people who are picking up the trash and who are delivering the mail and working in the health ministry. And so the idea that we're going to take away all of the civil servants but allow the Qassem brigades to remain is just it's a ridiculous offer on its face.
Why?
And it's a complete non-starter for Israel, which means it doesn't have Palestinians.
Yeah, why is that ridiculous?
Let him respond. Go ahead.
So I don't understand why you think those are two claims. So this is the single claim along the same line, right? That they've laid out. Hey, we'll give up civilian control now. Yesterday, I think the last statement they gave was the guy literally said yesterday, we're ready to give it up yesterday, right? They'll give that up now.
What does that benefit though? Like that's not giving anything. That doesn't give anything. That's not even a concession.
It benefits people in Gaza because currently all the civilian infrastructure is Hamas, quote unquote, which Israel uses as justification to bomb it. Right, which is why the police force is being bombed. Right, when they're trying to fight off people looting these aid trucks. Right, like so. Yeah, if that is all turned over from Hamas, and that is no longer Hamas, Israel no longer needs to bomb those things. They no longer need to kill the money changers, right, or the fucking mailman. Right, they don't, because this person is no longer Hamas. So then it definitely benefits the civilians in Gaza. Secondly, this is a claim along the same line because that's a first step. Now, long term, they are agreeing to disarm if these other conditions are met, i.e., Israel agrees to an independent state of Palestine along the pre-1967 borders, which you can say is probably not going to happen. I agree it's probably not going to happen because Israel's leaders have said that's not going to happen. So, and this leads me to my other point, right, which is that it seems like we are, you're speaking as if like the the obstacle to peace here is Hamas. But we have similar statements from the leaders of Israel for decades now about how there will be no two-state solution, how the two-state solution is dead, right? How they're going to push these people into the fucking desert for decades. So I feel like if we want to talk about the obstacles, I agree there are obstacles from Hamas. I don't like Hamas. I think it's a terrible organization. But we need to acknowledge that there are also terrible people in power in Israel. And they're also an obstacle to peace, which is why I think it makes more sense to have third parties come in and force them to work through this.
And
Okay,
on
hands
that
up.
note,
Sorry, wait,
on
hands
that
up.
note,
Can I just
hold
make
on.
sure?
On that
Okay.
note, right? Like when we're talking about peace treaties, right? In any conflict, any armed conflict, there's going to be a give and take, right? There are concessions given by both sides.
It is not a
right?
concession to say Hamas will
reasonable
stop
concession. Hold
taking
on,
out
one
the
second.
trash.
One
It's not a.
second.
It's
Hold on,
not a
One
concession.
second.
let
Hold
Prime
on.
finish,
Which
real quick.
I'm not going to be long. It's a reasonable concession to say that before we have reached some concrete goals, right, to show that both parties are following the agreement, that that one side doesn't fully disarm. Right, that side says that before we reach that moment in time, that we have a means to defend ourselves in case the other side goes back. And we've seen just recently Israel
Hamas
break
doesn't defend
ceasefires,
the.
unilaterally
Hamas
break
does not
ceasefires.
defend
So it
Gaza.
doesn't matter if you think they don't defend Gaza, right? But I'm saying that
Do
when
you think
an
they do? Do you
agreement,
think they
no,
do?
no, hold
Can
on.
you point
Listen,
to like a
hold
single
on,
example
calm
of when
down.
Hamas has used any
Bring it
part of
back,
their
bring
infrastructure
it
or
back,
capabilities
bring it
to
back.
protect
So
Gazan
this
civilians?
is
Yes, I can give you many
Okay,
actually.
hold on. One at a
peace
time.
treaty.
Let Prime finish.
Hold
Let
on.
Prime finish. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is a
Land your
peace
plane.
treaty between two armed groups, right? So you can feel that Hamas is bad or evil, and I can feel that Hamas is bad or evil. But to get them to agree to that peace treaty, right, there'll be concessions between those two groups, maybe other concerned third parties. That's how it works on the international stage.
Okay.
First of all, that's not always how it works. Second of all, I don't understand this idea that like the issue with Israel is not Hamas members who were giving healthcare and were taking out the trash. The issue was the Al-Qassam brigades coming over the border and killing as many people as they could and then taking a bunch of hostages. And then their leadership saying, we want to do this again and again and again and again and again until Israel's destroyed. That's kind of the issue. So when Hamas is saying, yeah, we're going to get rid of our tax collectors and everything else, but we're going to keep the Al-Qassam brigades, the thing that actually did this whole thing in the first place. It's ridiculous. Also, second of all, when you're talking about they're going to get rid of their political or their civilian control, but not the military wing, you understand that Hamas's military wing and their civilian wing are intertwined, like seriously. So for example, with the police, we know by Hamas's own admission that the police interior ministry and the defense ministry and the civil defense was all rammed with soldiers. Okay, like every time one of these sites was bombed, you start to see the Al-Qassam website saying, yeah, we lost like 100 martyrs in this bombing of this police station, because they are intertwined. We know the interior ministry is, we know the police is, we know the civil defense is, we know the new executive force that's just come back is, we know that their finance ministry obviously funds this. So the Al-Qassam brigades, with Israel out of Gaza, is what going to do what? Just defend the strip? No, they're going to reclaim political control. Like there's no indication otherwise. If we're talking about them saying that they accept two states with the 6-7 borders and who's intransigent, well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think anyone in this room thinks that Likud wants a two-state solution. I just don't know why it's so hard to extract that same concession from the other side. I can find you Khaled Michel from like this year saying we have never accepted a two-state solution and they're never going to.
Yeah, I want to give it to Tali a little bit. She's been trying to get in here. I want to give her a mic for a minute, and then I'll let Prime and Doobie respond. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can now.
Okay, good.
If you were trying to talk before, I couldn't. But yeah.
No, I wasn't.
Tali.
Yeah, I mean, Israeli society and governmental control is more fungible, is more open to the changing landscape here, much more so than Hamas is. So this idea, I agree with Lonerbox. Likud has no intention of a two-state solution on, we can call them the 1967 lines, even though these are, I mean, it's a complete misnomer. These are borders that never existed before. But even if we think that that's what the appropriate Palestinian state should look like, this is something that a large portion of Israeli society would be open to and would vote their leaders in to enforce if they believe that that was an actual possibility on the other side of this. So this idea that, again, that we can point to all of these Israeli leaders who say that there'll never be two states, we want to push them all into the desert and all of this, but the idea that Hamas is actually open to a lasting two-state solution and to eventual demilitarization is just, I feel like we're not living in reality, and it's coddling this idea too that like, well, yeah, both sides need to make concessions. Sure, yes, especially if we're talking about a two-state solution, both sides need to make concessions, absolutely, and it will be very painful for the Israeli side because of the completely unnecessary settlement expansions and things of that nature in the West Bank. But the idea that we need to be looking for equal concessions for some type of ceasefire in Gaza right
I
now,
never said
that
equal.
is ridiculous.
I never
Okay,
said
sure,
equal.
but but this idea that it's going to be some even back and forth. This is why people on the Israeli side say that Israel is not allowed to win a war. If people are going to come in and say, fine, Hamas still gets to maintain control. Both of you two, about a year ago, were agreeing that Hamas absolutely cannot remain in control of Gaza. But now that they've successfully had a year and a half of showing horrific torture and bloodshed on TV, people are saying, well, okay, yeah, it's Hamas is kind of bad. I don't like them taking all these brave stances. I don't think Hamas is awesome, but saying, but we need to make concessions on both sides. So Hamas should just stay in control and we'll do a ceasefire. And then we are back at square
We're
one.
not saying
We are
Hamas
back
should
at
stay
the
in
status
control. Wait a minute,
quo.
hon. You
And I think
guys
this
are
is the problem
asserting
too,
that.
that people assume that people who are against the ceasefire or who are against Hamas remaining in control in some variation of the ceasefire, that they don't care about Palestinian life and they don't want to stop the suffering. I think a lot of people who are against this are looking ahead and are looking at the incentive structure that has been going on for at least the last 20 years in this region of the region. And we want something to change. We don't want to allow for another situation where there are antagonists on the southern border who are shooting rockets in and stealing humans in order to gain sympathy essentially from the world stage, because they don't actually even believe that they can win. That is why their entire strategy is to ruin Israel's reputation on the world stage. And is Israel helping them in that goal? Yes. No argument here. But the idea that, oh, okay, well, things are kind of bad, so we need to just allow Hamas to remain in power, and that is somehow going to solve some things or even bring us in the right direction, I think is
Okay,
That is,
ridiculous on its
again,
face.
you have been inserting again and again that we are saying that Hamas should remain in power, right? We're just talking about the
You're asking
reality
for
that
concessions that do
no,
just that.
we're
So you
saying
might not
that
want that in your heart of hearts, but you're saying we should vote for
we're
that, and
saying
we
that
should
I can tell you what I'm
leverage
saying.
Yeah,
So what we're
power in the
saying is
United
that the
States to
reality of the
Let him
situation,
go.
the practical
Let him go.
reality of the situations, the practical reality is that if your goal, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but like if your goal is to end hostilities, right? Then like as a practical reality, then we are going to have to make concessions, right? And then and one of those concessions, at least in terms of the Egypt plan, which I support, right? As far as I can tell, it seems to be a damn good plan. One of those concessions would simply be that Hamas would not immediately disarm, right? This could be a great first step. Ceasefires are great first steps to lasting peace. And part of that could be that we say we hand over control, actual control, to the PA, right, with assistance from the Arab League and whatever partners, even the United States, right? We can have assistance there. We can have troops there. We can have physical control. But we're saying rather than force an even longer protracted conflict where a group simply won't hand over their weapons, right? Instead of doing that, let's sue for a treaty, right, or a ceasefire, and then hopefully, once trust is gained on both sides, then we can maybe talk about disarming Hamas. A great first step. This is how treaties work. This is how ceasefires work for long, protracted conflicts around the world.
I'm just so curious
Israel
from
doesn't need
both Duby and Prime. What is the Al-Qassam brigades doing running around Gaza without any civilian control in this scenario? Like, why do they want to keep the Al-Qassam brigades? I just want to see some assumptions. Why?
I'd assume that so my perspective is that there is a genocidal campaign happening. I agree. I know that you guys don't think this, but even if it were just ethnic cleansing, and this brigade in this conflict in which one side is attempting an ethnic cleansing, it's a much weaker. I mean, I would agree that Hamas probably wants to ethnically cleanse Israel too, or genocide Israel too. Right? Members of Hamas definitely want this, but one of them is actually doing it currently. So given that is a reality on the ground,
One of them tried on October 7th.
No, that wasn't. No, Don't do that.
An absolute attempt
no,
at genocide. Yes, like actually trying to
no, don't. I can.
eradicate
You
as
can
many
say you
civilians
can say it
as
was a
possible.
genocidal act.
It was
Don't
a
call it an
death
attempt at
vote.
genocide. If you really think these what
Sure,
the
it was
3
a
or 4,000
genocidal
people
act. What
thought they were going to kill
definition of
all
genocide
Jews
act
because
or
are
attempt at
ridiculous. Like,
genocide?
come on, just
Hold
for
on.
real.
You do gotta
Yeah,
let
if that's
people
the
finish.
case,
Hold on. So,
You gotta let
if that's
people
the
Why
case,
finish.
then
not?
Israel has
Why
definitely
not,
committed
though?
a genocide after, because the amount of deaths has far exceeded, right?
It's not a number of
By
deaths,
a
right? It's
factor.
intention. This
Oh,
is
it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
we can get into
Okay,
the
then if
intention.
it's not a
Fine.
number
That's
of
totally
deaths,
fine.
This is in the genocide convention. It's not just number of deaths, right?
oh,
Just because
great,
you're having a war doesn't mean that a genocide
I
can't be.
agree.
great,
But the idea
agreed.
that, oh, well, because of how many deaths, then if that was
We
a
agree.
genocide,
No, we agree. I
obviously is.
agree.
No,
I
we don't
agree.
agree. We don't. No, we don't agree. We don't agree because it's not just well, look at all this death. So then, if that was some type of attempt at genocide, then this obviously is. No, it's not obvious. It's the intention, specifically the specific intent that matters when you were trying to
Great.
classify
Then,
something as a
Yeah, I
genocide
agree.
or as a war crime. And this
and we
idea
can
too
look
that like.
at
First of all, there's not ethnic. There is no ethnic cleansing right now. There's a serious risk
That's
for
ridiculous.
ethnic cleansing, but like ethnically cleansed to where? From where? This what? From the north to the south, and then from the south back to the north. This is not ethnic cleansing. And trying to evacuate people from the worst of the war zone is also not ethnic cleansing. There is a sincere and serious risk for future ethnic cleansing, and I don't want to see that happening. But we don't need to use these hyperbolic words where they don't fit. There are plenty of war crimes going on that we can call out specifically without resorting to these terms that just do not fit.
Okay, so I totally disagree with everything you just said, but I'm going to grant it. So if you agree that there's a severe risk for like future ethnic cleansing, I mean, I think you could understand. I know it's difficult to like relate to Hamas members, but like extend some human empathy and be like, hey, why would this person not want to lay down their arms when there's like an army currently ethnically cleansing, or maybe in the future ethnically
because they're
cleansing the area?
Islamists. Like they
Don't do the
are
Islamist thing.
committed to
They're
the
human
goal
beings
of jihad.
that don't want to fucking die. They don't want their families to be ethnically
Yeah, but
cleansed. They
this
don't want their people to
this
die.
idea that there are
So totally
resistance fighters and
reasonable.
everyone
They are.
joins
I mean,
Hold
to
on,
be
hold on,
fair,
hold on, hold on,
Stevie,
hold on,
You
hold on.
can extract
You're
religion
all
from both
hold
sides
on.
of this. and
Everyone
these people will
stop
still
for a
be
minute.
fighting.
Everyone stop for
No,
everyone
the
stop.
same at all.
Everyone stop for a minute. You're all talking over each other. I like the energy, but we can't hear you when you're talking over each other. Let Doobie finish, then you guys can respond. I'll give it to Loner and to Tali to respond, but let Doobie finish, please. Go ahead.
Okay, so the back to the learner's question, and I apologize. I've had 3 coffees today. Okay, it's been a very busy day for me, so I'm a little hyped up, but I'm gonna try to calm down. So back to learner's question. What would they be doing? I think providing security, defense, just in case one of these genocidal ethnic cleansing brigades comes through and tries to kill people, as we've seen repeatedly, right, with civilians being slaughtered in mass and then later labeled terrorists. But from admissions from IDF soldiers and officers who said this has happened repeatedly, hundreds of people killed at a time and then later labeled terrorists. So I think Hamas probably wants this to not happen, which is why they would maintain their arms. To be clear, I don't want them to be in control long term. I think Hamas should be disbanded, but I think it makes sense from their perspective and from the perspective of like just fucking human that they wouldn't want to give up their arms during an ethnic cleansing or with the risk of a future ethnic cleansing.
It's like a total. I don't know what happens to the brain when it's like we're in Japan in 45 and they've just nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the Japanese emperor is like, no, we're not going to surrender and we need to keep our arms just in case they try to nuke us more and we need to defend ourselves against the nukes. It's like, bro, Hamas has no means of defense of Gaza. They have no, it's not ridiculous. Hamas has no. Ridiculous. Okay, you're right. It's not ridiculous because Hamas does the opposite of defending their civilians. Hamas hides in tunnels underneath the civilians where the civilians can't go and the civilians have to stay in the buildings above the tunnels, and when evacuation warnings are given by the IDF to leave because this place is going to become a combat zone,
all this is irrelevant.
Hamas tells their civilians, "Nah, fuck you, stand strong," okay? Because again, they benefit from civilians being around them in 2 ways. 1, because it makes it harder to find them and attack them. And 2, because if they do get attacked, then they get to use the civilian deaths to fuck with Israel on the world stage. Like, again, you can say it's dehumanizing and all that to talk about what they believe, but you can listen to Hamas members and leaders themselves and how they talk about martyrdom. They glorify it, okay? Even when it's civilians dying, they call it like Sinwar calls it a necessary sacrifice, or he did back in the day. And now they still, like, even new leaders still refer to it in this kind of positive way. So there's nothing defensive about Hamas staying there with their arms. Those arms can't defend anyone from anything. Why is Israel in Gaza right now? If Israel had the choice to fight an army out in the field in the middle of the desert with tanks and planes and shit like that, they would do that because that's what they did in the past. And they actually did a really good job of it. This is the longest war they've been in by far, okay, by months and months and months, because they're in a situation that they're not militarily typically prepared to deal with. This is Hamas choosing the battlefield. Hamas chose to dig all those tunnels and put them under civilian infrastructure. Hamas chose to go into a country that they were never going to defeat militarily, to attack them and then run back into the strip where all the civilians are. It's never been about defending their own civilians. And half of Gaza actually agrees with me on this right now, because half of them, 48% to be exact, supports the protesters who are literally accusing Hamas of dealing in their blood, of gambling with their lives. They understand it. I have no idea how naive you could be to think that Hamas is keeping their arms in case Israel bombs them more and tries to... How are arms going to stop that?
You're saying this as if it's like stupid, but let me just explain why your Japan comparison is
It's
silly.
naive.
Right? So
It's-
I agree you're
it's
being naive. I
at the
agree.
least.
You're being naive. So the Japan comparison is silly because, I mean, I'd agree with you if at the time there were major U.S. leaders, political figures, generals, etc., who were openly calling for the genocide of all the Japanese, or for the pushing these people into the sea, or to force them to go to China or something else. But that wasn't happening. Right, there was a war happening. The war was the deal was, hey, if you want us not to fucking bomb you again, you need to stop this war, and we're going to come in. We're going to work out a deal. You guys are going to give up. I think they disarmed or whatever the fuck after World War II. So given that given that currently there are Israeli leaders, and for decades now, Israeli leaders who have repeatedly called for ethnic cleansing, who've repeatedly called for genocide. I don't think these two things are comparable. I think it would have made sense for Japan to not immediately give up, right, and just surrender themselves to genocide or ethnic cleansing if that was a reality back then, right? But that's the reality now in Gaza. These are the people on the other side of the wall for them, right? Is yes, you have. I would agree. Hamas committed a genocidal act on October 7th, 100%. I agree that many people within Hamas are genocidal, of course, right? And I'm sure people outside of Hamas in Gaza, because they've been traumatized and there's so much hatred there that's been built up for decades now. Many of them are probably genocidal. And we know that many Israelis, for similar reasons, are also genocidal, right? There's like a reciprocal radicalization happening. So I think the first step to stopping that and to pull down the fucking the steam is just to have a ceasefire. And if Hamas is agreeing that they will do a ceasefire and they will give up civilian control, that's a beautiful first step, right? And then long term, you can work toward the demilitarization of Hamas. But rejecting the first step because you want to get you want the entire package all up front is fucking ridiculous. It's exactly what Hamas has been doing, which is also fucking ridiculous.
Okay, the Allies absolutely used insane dehumanizing rhetoric against the Japanese. Okay, like they literally saw them almost as another species. They put them what?
Did they say they would kill them all or push them into the sea?
I'm sure some of them did. Yeah. They nuked them. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is there was not a long history or active or current at the time leaders saying that they were going to genocide the Japanese, meaning kill all of them, or ethnically cleanse them, meaning push them all off the islands of Japan and into the sea or into China or whatever else. That was not a political reality at the time. That was not happening.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, some crazy dude said it.
They just firebombed more people in 3 days than Israel has managed to kill in the entire 20 months of a genocidal campaign.
I'm not saying this is a good thing.
But
the goals of the Americans were clear.
You got to let Loner finish too, right?
I think the thing. Okay, you know what? Let's just grant everything you're saying. Let's actually say that yes, Israel wants to do everything that you say they want to do. Yes. Why is Hamas continuing going to help that, for one? Two, I can just say Hamas themselves disagree with this, by the way. Like Hamas, I can find you some statements from the Interior Ministry in previous wars. Hamas knows that if they are caught firing a rocket from the town square, that town square might get bombed, okay? That's why they tell their civilians to shut the fuck up whenever they see any Hamas militant activity in their area, right? So I don't understand this logic that it's like, well, okay, they might bomb us, so I guess we should just fire some more rockets that are not going to do shit anyway, to avoid them bombing us. This is a non sequitur. Even if everything you're saying is, and I just completely grant it to you, Hamas cannot prevent that. Whereas, if we're talking about the world stage and everything, I'm pretty sure Israel's entire pretext for being in Gaza right now and why they had so much support from the international community to begin with was because Hamas was attacking them. If there's no rockets being fired, I'm just going to make this a question. Do you think if Hamas lay down their arms tomorrow, Israel, or if they lay down their arms a year ago, do you think Israel would have just kept on airstriking?
No, I think they would have continued to expand to the area to antagonize the Gazans and people in the West Bank as they're currently doing, until some other group formed and lashed out at them, and they would use that to justify more expansion and war, etc.
So they would have put settlements into Gaza if Hamas had given up on, say, like last year.
Long term, sure. I don't think it would have happened like this year, but I think that they would continue their antagonism in Gaza, to Palestinians generally, and in the West Bank. Which I think people like speak of the West Bank and Gaza as if the Palestinians there don't consider themselves related in any way, but they do, right? Hamas has used the expansions in the West Bank for fucking years now as justifications for their missile strikes, right? And you can say you don't believe them, but they seem to believe themselves, and other Gazans seem to believe them. So I think that Israel would have continued the antagonism. Because if there was like no resistance group there, and then eventually another resistance group would form, and they would do some crazy shit to lash out.
What was Israel's? Can you summarize Israel's Gaza policy before October 7th?
I think if I were to summarize it, I would say containment, but also the tacit support of Hamas to stop the formation of like a serious political movement that Israel would have to contend with.
I agree. Are you also aware that relaxing measures was part of their policy? Between,
yes.
say, 2010. Yeah, so yeah. The worst measures of the blockade were 2007, 2010. From 2014 onwards, they started making concessions. Like the blockade measures started getting relaxed, a lot more goods. You didn't have any situations where like pasta and cookies were getting banned anymore, and like shaving creams and things like that. So like it was, the dual use list was a lot more narrow than it was in 2007 to 2010. It was also the case that the maritime border that Gaza had was expanded, right? So that it went out by like 6 nautical miles, so people had more room for fishing. Work permits were up by like 20,000, and then after that, I think there was going to be another 20 or 30,000 before October 7th. So it seems to be that Israel's approach was it's almost as if they're not just driven to do this kind of like expansion and destruction unconditionally. It seemed to be that when Israel very foolishly believed that Hamas was a pragmatic movement, and that Sinwar was more interested in domestic power than in a large-scale confrontation with Israel, it seemed like Israel was willing to make concessions. That's why I'm curious why you think that like had Hamas given up, then Israel would have just continued the antagonism. It seemed to be that with regards to Gaza, they were doing the opposite when they thought Hamas was more practical.
I'm going to let Doobie respond to that if he wants, then give it to Prime, then give it to Tali. In this order we're going to go and go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're like, there's an issue with this whole conflict, which is like, there's a lot of tit for tat, right? And each side is claiming that the other side was a tit, right? That they started it. And I can agree that there were periods where Israel was loosening restrictions, but in the same period, Israel was expanding the West Bank. Israel was antagonizing these people in other ways, was harassing people along the. Is the Green Line even there anymore? Really? Like,
yes.
Like I feel like, sort of, right? So like I feel like and at the same time, like you had all these Israeli leaders talking about greater Israel, talking about expanding into Gaza. People not just running for office, but people in power saying this. So I don't know why we wouldn't like expect that these people who are using these ambitions, right, to hold political office, and while expanding to the West Bank, right, while doing all this wild shit there to antagonize, why we wouldn't expect them to eventually do this within Gaza, right? Like, it seems like the goal is to just take the whole region, and I think they should take the whole region, probably for different reasons than you guys do. Because I would say that they should just annex it and like long-term annex it and have like an actual like liberal democracy there, which would take a very long time. I'd agree. But my issue is that I trust the Israeli leaders when they're speaking in public, and it seems like you guys think that when they say things in public, they are just like playing politics. But when Hamas says things in public, they're being honest, and I think all of them are being honest about their political ambitions, which is I think Hamas's political ambitions is that they're kind of lunatics who think that if they do this long enough, Israel will crumble somehow. Whereas Israel believes that if they just keep pushing in Gaza, I'm sorry, in the West Bank, they can take that region eventually, right? Push these people out or force some group to lash out that would justify military action there. I think they did the same thing in Gaza, and I think this is a result, right? This is the result, and I think this is the long-term political ambition of many Israeli leaders.
Okay. Go ahead, Prime, then go Tali, and then we'll get back into it, right? Go ahead, Prime.
Sure, no problem. Our friend Tali here was talking about intent and how that is also necessary for a genocide, or even maybe even ethnic cleansing. So we have statements, of course, from the Israeli politicians, because they never shut the hell up about this, right? So Netanyahu, as reported by the Jerusalem Post, right? Maybe they're anti-Semites, I don't know. They say, Netanyahu says, we are destroying more and more homes, and Gazans have nowhere to return to. The only inevitable outcome will be the wish of Gazans to emigrate outside of the Gaza Strip, right? Clear intent for ethnic cleansing. Destroying their homes, and they've leveled Gaza, right? Hopefully we can all agree on that, but maybe not. And destroying the necessary requirements for life. I can go more in detail into that later. So that's one, right? But there's a lot more than that. So there is the deputy speaker for the Israeli parliament, a person named Nissam Baturi, I'm sure I'm butchering that. He says, wipe Gaza off the face of the earth, and added, Gaza must be burned. He said, I stand behind my words. It is better to burn down buildings rather than have Israeli soldiers harmed. There are no innocents there. And he said in a radio interview before calling for the elimination of the estimated 100,000 Palestinians left in northern Gaza. But then he says, quote, I have no mercy for those who are still there. We need to eliminate them. Vituri, who belongs to the Likud, the right-wing party, Netanyahu. And this article has many, many more statements like that. And I can read that if you think that's not enough. You think, hey, he is not significant. Don't worry, got a whole list. So there's plenty of intent by the Israelis for genocide. Let's get that out of the way. Beyond that, going back to the previous conversation, the Egypt plan also calls for elections to be held, hopefully within a year of the plan being initiated. So there is a pathway here. There's a pathway to peace. And pathway to peace usually don't start immediately with disarmament by one person, unless it's like unilateral surrender. Right? Very rarely is that the case. And clearly, Hamas says otherwise. And if they continue to say no, right, well, then I think you'll agree that Israel will continue the campaign, continue bombing. And so if the campaign never ends, if Hamas is belligerent and says they never end, where does that end up? Like, what is the end result? If they continue to do this and aid is slow to a trickle, famine is running wild within that area, right? Either that's an ethnic cleansing campaign at the very least, or attempted to, even if they can't get them out, or genocide. Please go ahead.
Okay, so the idea that we need to allow the Qassam brigades to maintain their military control over the Gaza Strip, because otherwise that is somehow going to maintain the status quo. You said if Hamas is not willing to surrender and Israel is not willing to stop until Hamas surrenders, then we're just stay in this state of war forever. Well, no, potentially what would happen is even more death and destruction of innocent civilians in Israel's effort to defeat Hamas. And I do think that is ultimately possible, even if it's not going to be quick or pretty. I don't understand why the response is, okay, yeah, so then we should pressure Israel to accept the Al-Qassam brigades maintaining military control over the Gaza Strip, and not, yes, we should be putting the pressure on the Qassam brigades, on Hamas to surrender. There should be a full surrender. The Hamas is not. I'm gonna jump a little bit back to what Doobie was saying too. But this idea that, like, okay, even if you got rid of Hamas, like, another resistance group is just going to organically develop in its place. Perhaps, but that's not what Hamas is. Hamas is not there to defend the rights and liberties of the Palestinian people. Hamas is not there to establish a sovereign Palestinian state. Hamas is there to wage jihad against the Israeli state and to ensure that they have Arab control from the river to the sea. That is just obviously not.
That doesn't matter, right?
It matters to Israel at the very least,
no,
and they're the ones with all the power.
But it doesn't matter in terms of no. That's not what I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter that Hamas may be of bad intent, right? Let's grant you everything you've just said about Hamas.
You're right. They may be.
No, they are. Let's say they are. I'm granting you everything, right? That doesn't make a difference in terms of like the peace process. The point is to stop hostilities, right? Again, I think you share in that goal to stop hostilities. Well, then that might take a phased plan, right? Like that happens. I mean, you understand this happens in peace treaties, peace negotiations around the world, right? When we have an armed conflict, especially a protracted one, right? Usually, except for very rare occasions, it's not like one side completely gives up and puts down their arms immediately. There's usually a phased plan. Why not start with that or put forth something like that, a phased plan for that, when we can see that both sides are making tangible strides to goals laid out.
Can I make an assumption, and you'll correct me if this is true or
Sure.
not? I'm assuming that the reason that you are even sympathetic to this plan is because you want to make sure that there is someone in the Gaza Strip who can protect the Palestinian people.
No.
Otherwise, I
No.
don't see why you would even be
No,
sympathetic to this at all.
because I don't need to, because again, like this plan calls for
If you're only
outside
sympathetic
forces.
to it because you think it's a step.
No, that's not. Hold on, I'm literally telling you, I'm giving you the answer, all right? So wait for the answer, and then you can respond to that. So no, I'm not saying that. In fact, like once again, the plan calls for third-party nations, the UN security forces, to come and secure the area. That's what I'm in favor of, right there. Right? It's not that I think Hamas are good guys or Hamas will sacrifice themselves for the greater goal of the people. No, I don't have to do that at all. The plan actually allows for outside parties to interfere. Go ahead.
Sure. So I think there's no reason to believe that would actually be possible, that the UN peacekeepers are going to stay in Gaza if they're starting to be bombed and attacked and shot in the streets by Hamas.
Why not?
Which is obviously because they haven't in the past. Because they've run when the going got tough in the past, and really, why should they? The idea that someone you're bringing like just more arms into the region, then. So in order for this idea that Hamas is going to maintain their military control, but we're also going to bring in some type of international military control, so they need to be at least as strong as Hamas. And so then what? We're just having like
Which is
another
easy.
armed conflict.
Israel's been very successful in degrading Hamas's capabilities. I mean, they brag about it all the time, right? That Hamas is only a shadow of itself. Yeah, it can easily outgun Hamas, right? With modern militaries like stationed in Gaza with
so who's
bases.
going
of
in?
course they
So
could.
which countries are going to send? So who's sending their soldiers?
Sure, it could be. Yeah, it could be
Actually, if
your
that's the plan,
allies.
then this should have started a long time ago. If the goal is that we need someone in there, to protect the Palestinian people and be able to ward off Hamas, then that should have happened a long time ago.
I do have a question.
Agreed. Hamas equal bad.
Sure.
Hold on, just a sec. It could be your allies, right? Egypt is an ally, correct? Right? Egypt.
Just to be clear, absolutely fucking no one wants to do this. Okay, we saw this we had how many?
They have they put forth a plan for exactly this.
Yeah, I know, and I've seen the Egyptian plan you're talking about, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the only illusion, because it's just an illusion they make to Hamas, is, and you tell me how serious this sounds, is the issue of multiple armed Palestinian factions remains challenging. However, it is one that can be addressed and even resolved permanently only if its root causes are tackled by providing a clear political prospect and a credible process that works to establish the Palestinian state and restores the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to their rightful owners. Bro, this is like asking a first-year sociology lefty like how you deal with crime, and all they want to talk about is like root causes and the way people are raised and like social.
Because if you don't address causes, then people are going to do it again.
That's great, but there's also a military with guns. I'm sorry, it's like there's also
they can build. There will be another group afterwards if you don't actually address.
Let Loner go a bit.
Yeah, by the same token that at the end of the day, you also need a police force, right?
Yes, exactly.
We know how UN forces have worked in Lebanon with Hezbollah. They were fucking useless, okay? Hezbollah armed themselves to the teeth from 2006 all the way up until last year. Pick your Arab allies. Really? You think the Saudi or Egyptian...
The ones that have signed on to this plan.
Really?
Those
you
are the ones.
You think the Saudi and Egyptian military have agreed to send soldiers?
That would require Israel to agree, obviously. I mean, then do it. Israel would have to agree. I'm saying Israel should agree to this.
Maybe my memory is fucked, okay? Because I read the 106-page document from Egypt. Did they volunteer to send Egyptian soldiers in there to fight with Hamas in case they cause trouble? No one wants to do this. I don't understand. It's like... given
Of
how
course, no one
Hamas
wants to
fights and
do
given
this.
how they
Why
operate,
would they?
like,
This
no
is a
one's going to do
$53
this.
billion plan, right? No one wants to do any of this, right? No one wants to be involved in the peace talks because it's going to cost them something politically. Of course, that's a situation, right? That's why we have an international response, right? Group responses to this. But if anyone can get out of doing this, sending in their troops, right? Well, that will only play well domestically. That will be the case for anything, for any force that might come in, right? Other than Israelis who are dying to get back into Gaza, right? Other than them, everyone is going to be hesitant. Of course.
I haven't spoken to that many IDF soldiers, but as far as I know, like none of them want to go back to Gaza if they've ever been in there.
No.
Fuck that. But like
I've
again,
spoken to a
no,
lot,
no.
and a lot of them do.
And
As far
also,
as
the
Middle
overwhelming
Eastern countries
majority of
go,
Israelis, they don't want Gaza. They don't want to settle in Gaza. The overwhelming
not true.
majority of Israelis,
that is true.
it is true.
No,
It
it's
is
not.
true. They have no interest in resettling Gaza. The majority of Israelis, if they believe that there was a sincere desire for some type of two-state solution on the quote-unquote 1967 lines, people would be in support of it. There are obviously the West Bank is a severe complication, and there are I think real strategic threats or concerns that aren't necessarily always taken seriously as to why Israel might want to maintain some type of control in the West Bank. But the idea that all Israel, like this greater Israel and stuff like that, yes, sure, there are some freaks who are interested in this, and they do have some contingency within the Israeli public. It's a vanishingly small number of people who
You're
actually are
correct.
interested
It
in
is
greater
vanishingly small.
Israel
You're
and
smart.
expanding their
That is
borders
correct.
outside
But
of
they
Israel
have
proper.
political power, right? They're part
They
of
do. They
the
do.
Likud
And the way
coalition, governing coalition.
the way to ensure that they maintain as much political power as possible is to keep Hamas in power in Gaza. All of this feeds
We're
the
not
forces
advocating
in
for that.
Israel that people demonize.
We're not
You
advocating for
are.
that.
hold
You're
on, so to be
advocating.
clear,
You're
no.
advocating that Israel
No, we're
accept
not.
a ceasefire that you say would allow the Qassam brigades to maintain military control in Gaza.
No, not military
gives
control. No,
fuel
no,
to
hold on. I didn't say that.
to
Oh,
the
no, I didn't say
crazy
that. Once again, not military control,
military
right?
presence.
That they wouldn't put down their arms. But military presence, yeah, fine. But military presence where they wouldn't necessarily put down their arms immediately. Yeah, and a phased response, right? And then from there, like once you build up that trust, this plan calls for the rebuilding of Gaza. Right, $53 billion. That's where it's going into. Rebuilding of Gaza, rebuilding of the civilian infrastructure, building of the airport, rebuilding of all of that. In that case, right, especially after an election,
What happens to the Palestinians? What happens to the Palestinians in the interim?
There'll be interim housing being built at the same time, like temporary housing, and then from there, in the next stage, they'll start building more permanent housing as they advance. But yeah, housing won't magically appear there immediately. There's going to be a period where they'll be homeless, unfortunately.
I do
Wait, hold
want
on,
to.
can I say a couple
the mic.
things?
Go ahead.
So something that bothered me earlier is I think you were implying that Israel would not be okay with other armed groups within Gaza, right? But Israel is currently funding, and has been for at least a year now, gangs in Gaza, criminal gangs in Gaza that have looted aid convoys repeatedly, and they've even attacked. And Hamas's police force has attacked these groups, and Israel has bombed the police force that was trying to attack these groups to get them to stop stealing the aid. And this was happening last year, and this is still happening, right? So Israel is obviously okay with some level of another like armed force within Gaza that's opposed to Hamas, and I agree it's currently a bad situation because you have these two groups fighting, and neither of them seem to have the ultimate well-being of Palestinians at the top of their mind. But that's number one. But you guys keep hitting on this idea that it would be ridiculous to expect them to give us civilian control and then eventually, in the long term, give up demilitarize or disarm. But that's exactly what happened with the IRA. Now, obviously, I don't think these two situations are exactly comparable, but the IRA did give up civilian control, and then it was almost 10 years before they fully disarmed, right? So we've seen this happen before with another resistance group, quote unquote, right? Initially, they gave up civilian control. I think with the IRA, there was another security force that was recognized as the official security force of the area that was not the IRA. And then long term, as more negotiations happened, as this group was satisfied that the deals were being adhered to, they gave up military control, or they disarmed and disbanded. So I don't see a reason that this couldn't also happen within Gaza.
I don't know why we're even hypothesizing about this, though. We already know a world that had Hamas with arms and military presence, but without civilian control. And it was the entire peace process. And what did they do with those arms? They launched suicide bombings and attacks across the border and kidnapped people because they wanted to hamstring the peace process. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, we keep talking about countries wanting to
During the
volunteer to help
ceasefire
Gaza.
talks, Israel has increased its bombings, right? Like, so when during various points they're doing ceasefire talks, Israel has increased the amount of bombings that they've done to give them leverage. That
They've
happens
even killed
on
the people
both
that
sides.
they're negotiating with.
And Ukraine and Russia, right? Russia increases its bombings during the talks, right? To give it more leverage. That's the thing that happens, unfortunately.
Right. I'm just going to go back to where I was starting. You're talking about that Egypt plan. These Middle Eastern countries are more than willing to put in billions and billions of dollars to be the ones who rescued Gaza. They would love to do that, okay? However, none of them want to have soldiers in there dealing with Hamas militants who are still armed. Because, again, Hamas have been in a situation before where they've been armed, albeit much less than they are now. They've been armed, but not political. And they basically use those arms to push political means, to push people away from the peace process, and to basically just frustrate the entire procedure of coming close to anything that
But
might
I agree with you.
reconciliation
Again,
the country.
I agree with you.
And
No one
that's
wants.
exactly what they're going to do this time. Again, you're talking about Israel arming, you can call them gangs to some degree, some of them are. This also refers to Israel helping clans in Gaza, because that's the only other form of leadership in Gaza that wouldn't be Hamas right now is clan leadership, because these guys have been leading the anti-Hamas protests in a lot of areas. They were also, at one point, they were armed because they were seen as an alternative aid distributor. This isn't really the same as them accepting arms in the hands of people who want to destroy the country. So again, you can talk about all these plans with Egypt and all these other factions, but like, if at the end of the day, you're not building modular homes in Gaza, as long as Hamas is like standing right next to one of those homes with a rocket or a mortar and is willing to fire it into Israel or an IDF position.
Dibby, let me just jump in just quickly, right? Yes, no country is going to want to volunteer their forces, but that's the way it always works. Look, thinking about American politics, right? America has had interventions in Yemen, in Syria, in Libya, across the Middle East, right? It is not politically expedient and not politically popular to put American boots on the ground, right? And so we'll do airstrikes, right? Or work with our allies in the region, right? We'll fund and arm groups, proxies that'll do it for us, right? Anything to avoid putting American troops in danger, because when you have American bodies coming back, right, that looks awful. So yes, again, I agree with you. No one wants to volunteer, right? That doesn't mean that they won't, though. Right, that's a different thing than saying that absolutely won't happen. And of course, that's separate from the UN security forces altogether. But go ahead, dude.
Well, they'll go in if Hamas is disarmed, right? It'd be much. The problem with this Egyptian plan is it's great unless Hamas is still there.
Yeah,
Hamas still has arms. Like,
it'd be much easier if we could major.
Yeah, this is okay. Let me put a little problem in here that I foresee happening. I completely agree with Hamas still there. These countries are not going to go in, or at least it's not going to be fruitful. So yes, there's the possibility of American soldiers coming back in body bags, and that would be horrific. But I think there's actually a greater possibility that if there were American troops on the ground in Gaza that are supposed to be maintaining some type of ceasefire interim peace process, they're going to end up killing Palestinians if Hamas if the Al-Qassam brigades start acting up, start attacking these local peacekeepers.
They would kill a lot less than the IDF.
They're going to fire back, and then it will be American troops that are responsible for the death.
Yeah, they would kill a lot less than the murderous IDF. But I mean, yes, there could be, in a place where you have different armed groups, there could be conflict.
So do you think the American public is going to be? They're going to be okay with that? Well,
no,
there's killing, so
there's going to have political conflict any which way, right? Like I'm acknowledging there are political costs to all of this. There's a political cost, there's economic cost, right? There is a social cost, like how much will your society put up with whatever is happening, right? This is true for all armed conflicts, right? From the beginning of the armed conflict to the resolution of the armed conflict, all that is the case, right? All you're saying is that, well, yeah, there's going to be these costs, and people aren't going to want to pay them, right? But the first part is to agree to the ceasefire, right? And keep it. Don't break it unilaterally like the Israelis did earlier this year, right? When you have a ceasefire
also that it's
plan
just
in
Israel
place.
that's been ruining all of the ceasefires.
Well,
has Hamas been responsible for ending any of the ceasefire?
Who unilaterally
hold on,
ended
both
the
of you,
ceasefire?
please, just real quick, because this has been on my mind. I've been wanting to ask it, but you've been having good back and forth, so I've kind of let it go. Prime, you said something earlier, and it's come up again, that the goal is to just stop the conflict and stop these things. Why is that the goal, and why should that be a goal? Why shouldn't Israel just say, you know what, we have the chance, let's just win. Let's just win, take them out. Why should we agree to a ceasefire? We're winning. We can win. Why not just let them win?
Why not just
let them win? Just
win?
let them wipe out Hamas.
Because as we've seen, as they waged their genocidal war, they're not just like doing precision strikes, taking out military targets, right? And eventually, we give them enough time, it'll simply end, right? We've seen that Hamas has refilled its ranks, right? Apparently, according to them, 15,000 soldiers. But even Israeli and U.S. military intelligence tells us that Hamas has refilled its ranks as this war has gone on. So the end of the war isn't anywhere in sight if the goal is simply to wipe out Hamas, right? And in the meantime, the Israel government will do what it loves to do, right? Wipe out Palestinians, which it's doing right now, right? Through mass slaughter, through famine, through denial of water, right? By destroying civilian infrastructures, through bombing schools, to bombing UN sites, to bombing hospitals, to doing all of that. So the reason why that the international community is saying just wait and like let Israel win, one, because I don't think they can even by their own terms, but two, it's because of the massive humanitarian aid, humanitarian crisis being caused by Israel.
There's a bit of a contradiction coming from you guys now. I want to ask about this one contradiction coming from both of you. So I think it was either Prime or Doobie earlier who said that Hamas are they're sufficiently weakened enough now that a UN peacekeeping force or an Egyptian or Saudi detachment could actually deal with them. But now we're saying they've refilled their ranks. So are Hamas strong or are they weak right now? What's going on?
No, I was talking about in terms of their armaments. Apparently, so Israel has been saying that they've degraded their capabilities, right? Like their abilities to fire rockets. I think Netanyahu said that in a statement. I can see if I can find that again. Where before they had like a certain number of hundreds of thousands of rockets they had previously, right? But now they can only fire like one or two. So they're, in terms of their military capabilities, they have enough people, right? But they don't have the weapons, they don't have the armaments as they did previously. So in that case, yes, they can. But even that's not the case, right? Let's say they're at full power, still with like a UN security forces there, they can be outgunned.
Yeah, I mean, and
why does Hamas shoot rockets?
Well, when's the last time they fired like rockets at Israel? It's been a while because I think it's like Prime was saying, they've massively lost their ability to do that sort of thing, which is a good thing, I think.
Sure, but why? Why do they send rockets?
It is this is actually related to Wick's question. There's something called the insurgent calculus, right? Like where it's like the insurgent wins by not losing, and the state loses by not winning, something like this, or something silly like that. Right, so like the idea is that they fire rockets. Israel, I mean, we were just talking about this earlier. Israel bombs wherever the rockets came from. Civilians are there intentionally from Hamas's part, right? They intentionally do this where they're civilians, and then Israel bombs that thing, and then they look bad on the world stage, which builds sympathy for their movement. This bombing builds sympathy in the area from the people within Gaza who are now upset their family members have died, which leads more people to want to join Hamas to lash out against Israel. It's like a never-ending cycle, right? And I think it's been demonstrated at this point that Israel's running into that problem in Gaza, right? So they bomb all these, they kill all these fighters, and I think the reason
you just said it's a never-ending cycle.
Yes.
You're putting the beginning of that cycle on Hamas. You said they send the rockets over.
I don't think Hamas is a good.
Israel will respond, right? Or not. I don't think that you think that Hamas is great, but then they are obviously the antagonist here. They are the impediment to peace between the Israeli and Gazan border, not between Israel and Palestine, but they are the impediment to peace on the Israeli and Gazan border. The idea that you just said it yourself.
I
disagree with that. Because they send over the rockets because they know that Israel will respond, and that's going to lead to civilian casualty, which leads to their propaganda machine on the world stage and all of this. That they are explicitly antagonistic with no regard for the protection of their people, and so obviously allowing them to maintain power only hurts Palestinians ultimately.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that.
How
I think
how is any of this in service of Palestinians?
I can explain. So I think from their perspective, and this is sort of what Lonerbox responded to earlier when he said that these people, that it was a sin warrant, so these people were like necessary sacrifices, because they're also thinking of this calculus that I mentioned. Because a big part of their strategy is to win sympathy on the world stage, which has been working for them, like admittedly, right? I think that this is the reason we're talking about it right now. It's a reason that Israel is slowly on the path to becoming a global pariah. Is because the more these images get out, the more this helps their ultimate goal of making Israel a pariah, getting
Just real
some
quick,
kind of
Doobie,
pressure on them. Go ahead.
can you elaborate on this slowly becoming a social a pariah on the global stage?
Pariah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you and I genuinely don't know. I'm genuinely asking. What treaties have international groups backed out of with Israel? What countries have stopped working with Israel? What have they lost from that perspective on an international stage?
So I know that Saudi Arabia pulled out of a treaty that they were forming with Israel
Okay.
to normalize relations with them. I know that recently the UK, and this has been like a massive shift from the UK, because I think they did put a ban on like certain like missile parts to Israel, but I think they've extended that ban recently, and now there are calls for like sanctions, right? And you're hearing calls from like France for sanctions, right? And this is all over. I think there's like been a massive shift, and I think maybe since Gideon's chariots, I think, or since Trump's ridiculous ethnic cleansing proposal, there's been a huge shift on the global stage, because a lot of Israeli leaders ate that up and said, "Oh
What
yeah,
does
that is
that
what we
do
want
for
to do."
Palestinians? What does that
Yeah,
do for
Well,
so
Palestinians?
Brent,
It's
we're
interesting
risking
that
right now.
I will say as well. The question
No,
was
that's a different
what they do.
question.
The
But
question was what they do to help Palestinians, and the only answer we can give is how they can hurt Israel. But these are not the
Well,
same thing.
yeah, hold on. Not
what?
sort of, but not really, right? So if the ultimate goal, from their perspective, is to get Israel to lose influence in the world, so that these nations start treating Israel as an occupying power and not as like a Western-style liberal democracy, quote unquote, within the Middle East, right? I think that is their ultimate goal, because they believe that this will lead sanctions or some kind of pressure being put on Israel to form a two-state solution, to form some kind of lasting peace plan. I think that does help Palestinians long term from their perspective, and I think this is the reason that
This
they
is
give. So they
Hamas
need
does
Israel to
not
lose.
want a two-state solution. I mean,
I
again, this is
understand.
just
I
like
understand. I understand. You're saying that long term they want to genocide the Jews or whatever. I might even agree with that, right?
there's not
For like
even
Hamas
there's not
specifically,
even good evidence
but
that they want a
but
short-term two-state
that's
solution. So
fine.
it's true that
That's
they've
fine.
they've
But
only
no
been
problem.
they've only even been willing to say like, yes, we'll do the 67 borders thing in furtherance of our goal of completely wiping Israel off of the map. But there's really no evidence that they would even do that.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
no
That's fine.
evidence that they would actually.
That's fine. That's fine, right?
So okay, so what does this do
because
to
you don't
further
you're not
the?
you don't think that they're being honest when they're in public. I think that they are, and I think you just need to look at the reality on the
Well, to be
ground.
clear,
In
their
public,
public
they've
statements
never.
are there about
Their
the two-state
public.
solution.
Yes.
We're listening
Yeah,
to their
hold
public
on. So I
statements.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I understand. So they're saying two-state solution, which is like a platform to get to the next stage, right? Which is not a two-state solution. I agree with that. But from their
They're
perspective,
not
if you're
working
asking,
towards a two-state
please
solution.
stop.
If a two-state solution
Just
was
let me.
literally
This is
put into their lap, they would
no.
accept it as one step
we gotta let
in service of.
yeah, we
Yeah,
gotta let
you're
Doobie
not
finish
listening.
his statement. Go ahead.
So I understand. So you're asking what they're doing to help the Palestinian people. I think that this step would help the Palestinian people from their perspective, and the next step from their perspective would also help the Palestinian people, which would be maybe dismantling Israel somehow in some magical world, or getting all the Arab nations to unite against Israel and blow it up, which is
Because that
ridiculous, I
worked
think.
so well throughout
Okay,
history.
but from their perspective, right? And I think that if you just need to like look at the results,
The Arab nations have really
let him
been
finish.
the fact that
Just let him
Israel, the
finish.
fact
great
that Israel
allies of the
has
Palestinians.
been destroying itself on the world stage, making itself look like a psychopathic nation for the last year and a half or so. Like I think that they're winning the PR war, obviously, and I think this is only
That's
going to
it.
help
That's
their.
all they're winning.
No,
Yes,
I
they
think
are
this is
winning
why. I
PR
think this is
war
why. I
while
think
they
this is
are
why there's so much
fighting.
Israel
Give it
right
a
now.
second,
There's
give it a
so much
second, let him
pressure.
finish.
We
He'll
love
land his plane
Palestine.
soon.
There's so much pressure on Israel right now to have not just a ceasefire, but a plan after the ceasefire for lasting permanent peace and a second state. Right. So like
And
that
does it
is
seem like
that
Israel
is
gives a shit? Like, does it seem like this that
well,
all
the
the things you're
sanctions aren't
saying
there
that
yet.
making Israel a pariah,
Yeah,
making Israel a pariah?
obviously.
Yeah,
There
I
is
think
no
they do give a
pressure.
shit.
Again, you guys don't seem to understand, and maybe perhaps the reason that you're not interested in what the incentive structure looks like within Israel and what the political landscape looks like within Israel is because you don't believe that Israel should exist. You believe there should be some one state that is
True.
not Israel, some different separate entity.
Accurate.
But
I mean, they
this
could call
idea
itself
that
Israel, that'd be fine.
okay, once they really feel the pain of America or sanctioning them or the EU and half the world sanctioning them. The idea that then they're going to suddenly be more amenable to a two-state solution on 67 borders and ceasefire and all of this is just completely, it's the complete inverse.
Let her
It's the
out.
complete
Let her
inverse.
elaborate a little bit.
On the
Can you
right,
explain that?
on the
Hold
right,
on, just real quick. Can you explain your statement there, because I'm very curious. What do you mean that they won't? When you say that they won't respond to this international pariah status in the way that Doobie and Prime assume they are, what is your opinion of how they will respond? I'm just.
Can I go after?
You can absolutely go after, and then we'll get Lonerbox in here too. So go ahead.
The contemptible corners of Israeli society and representation in government, the way that they maintain power and their pitch to the Israeli people is that basically the entire world hates us, and it's a Donald Trump thing. It's I alone can save you, and we're here alone, and we can't rely on anybody else, and that causes people to dig their heels in and to give up on the idea of peace. The idea that losing money from the United States or losing money from the rest of the world, again, is going to cause the right in Israel to concede, doesn't understand the at least the rhetoric of the right in Israel. There's been for a long time people on the right in Israel who were asking to stop US aid to Israel because they feel like it hamstrings them. They feel like receiving money from America allows America to interfere with their foreign policy in a way that that certain people in Israel don't want them to. So this is not going to force the right in Israel to suddenly become peaceniks or make these huge concessions. It's going to give more political power to the right in Israel, to the contemptible forces that none of us here want to be in control of the region.
So it's okay. So with the political dynamics in Israel, if they stay the same as they are, well, then you're correct, right? Simply being labeled a pariah, right, and people being putting mean posts on Twitter isn't going to change anything, and maybe like it'll increase national fervor. I don't know. But we've seen the blueprint for this, right? Another apartheid state, South Africa, face similar consequences. When the international community united against them and put sanctions on them, that forced their hand. Because the political parties, if they left to their own devices, they wouldn't have changed. Nothing changes in that situation, right? But on a political and economic level, the regime became untenable. And that's the goal. So going back to the very start of the conversation, right? We talked about, hey, should the U.S. start decoupling from Israel? At the very least, like put some certain sanctions in place. Absolutely, they should, right? We have the tools to do that. For instance, we have the Leahy law that says that militaries receiving military aid from the United States can't have been accused of credibly accused of war crimes, right? So there's an investigation that happens there, and then we deny them, right? So we have the tools for exactly this. So simply stating that, we haven't seen anything yet, right? And we can see the Israeli right digging in their heels, and maybe they're gaining support. Yeah, that happens until there's actual real world consequences, until the U.S. Says no more, until
those consequences will push it further to the right.
No, until the economic pain is too much, right? We have seen Israeli civilians flee Israel, right? We've seen
in what numbers?
Over 500. I'll give you the numbers. Over 550,000 Israelis.
You're going to be disappointed if you are waiting for. There's a real contingent of people.
They said that about South
believe
Africa.
That they are just going to make life in Israel so miserable for Israelis that they're all going to flee.
They said that about South Africa.
The overwhelming majority of Israelis
said it was
have nowhere else to go. They do not have citizenship anywhere else. They're not leaving.
Of course, the political
they're not going anywhere.
Say that we're not going to change. Why would they say anything else, right? Unless there's actual.
Is not a viable
I'm not talking
path.
about the slow dissolution. I'm not talking about the slow dissolution of Israel. I'm talking about international pressure. We've used that on dozens of other countries, right? Within the last few decades.
We all agree.
Right? That's how you
agree that
get change.
Should use international
We're using on
pressure.
Iran at this moment. At this moment.
And we would all be in support of international pressure.
We want to give it to Lonerbox. Lonerbox, go ahead. You were trying to get in.
Okay, so I'm just going to drop out one, maybe skip then, like, I think it was like less than 12 hours ago when they actually met with the Israeli foreign minister. And it seems like Germany's commitment to supporting Israel is still steadfast. Like, it's not actually moving. It seems to be like they've learned the lesson of how to deal with this kind of like international uproar as Western leaders, is that just do what like Palestinian leaders do. Just go to the United Nations and bluster for 20 minutes and then, or an hour, and condemn Israel, but don't actually do anything about it. And then actually that seems to be enough. I wonder if that's like, I don't think many of these countries are actually going to commit to like sanctions or BDS against Israel. I think that's very unlikely. But again, could be wrong. To address what you're saying, Prime, I can understand why Hamas or someone like that would enjoy, it was Merz, not Schultz. I'm so sorry, Germans. Okay. I can understand why Hamas would like to see Israel gaining pariahhood and getting sanctioned by the rest of the world, because it weakens the country and it isolates them and it makes more opportunity for them to bring it down. Or, you know, Israelis leaving the country might be seen as a goal to them because they would just like to see less people there. Although politically, let's face it, the ones who are most likely to leave Israel are dual citizens who are less radical, okay? The most radical Jews in Israel are Mizrahi. They're Middle Eastern, North African. They're the ones who don't have dual citizenship. So you're just making more of them, and then they're fucking mental, right? That's where Netanyahu gets the votes from. Second of all, I can see, but maybe Western activists like the boycott sanctions thing from the West and the pariahhood because it reminds them of South Africa. One or two big problems with that. One is the ANC was clear about what they wanted. They wanted one person, one vote, peace, reconciliation, nation building. The most popular faction in Palestine, unfortunately, is still Hamas. In the West Bank, they're more popular than they are in Gaza, okay? They do not want peace, reconciliation, nation building. We all agree on that. And the other alternative is maybe Marwan Barghouti. Well, he's been in jail for like 20 years. And Mahmoud Abbas, who, let's face it, is at best insanely ambiguous. He was given a peace offer. He didn't counteroffer. He made up some weird story about a napkin. And this is where we are. So that's one problem. The second problem is, and I'm sure we'll agree on this as well, is that, frankly, anti-white racism is a less valid concern than anti-Semitism. It always has been. White South Africans did not have to fear being a minority in South Africa in the same way that Israeli Jews have to fear being a minority in an Arab country. Because we know that from the last 100 years, every Arab Muslim country that's had a Jewish minority has failed to convince that Jewish minority that they are safe. Tunisia
South
failed,
Africa
Algeria
specifically
failed,
said,
Egypt.
the South African regime specifically said they could be genocided.
Let Loner finish.
And
please,
And they were wrong for the reasons I just
They
outlined.
were wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the reasons I just outlined. Name one Middle East or North African country in the last 100 years that has treated their Jewish minority well. You think Palestinians are going to be the first? Palestinians, the people who have more of an excuse in this entire earth and since the dawn of time to be anti-Semitic. This is the first country where
it's nice to
Jews will be
think
safe
that they're
as a
simply
minority.
barbaric, right? And there's no path to peace. The black South Africans also had plenty of reasons to enact revenge upon white South Africans, right? The thought was, of course, we couldn't integrate, right? I mean, the thought in the United States was, well, of course, when we see slaves, we can't integrate, right? These people are barbaric. Well, we have to send them somewhere else, right? To was Liberia or whatever the name of the country was. We have to establish another state. We should have to cleanse them. But as we've seen, most individuals actually want peace. Most people want to live in a state with mutual cooperation, where the children grow up in safety.
Not
right?
in Israel, Palestine, they don't. Have you seen the polls? This is the least popular option for that region. Arabs and Jews alike, less than 10% of them want one state for two people.
Yeah, and that's going to be the case if there's no path, right?
But that wasn't the same for South Africa.
Why do you want to Why do you want exactly? Why do you want to force? It's not. Thank you. Actually, Lonerbox just put it so simply. That was not the case in South Africa. So this idea that we can just put on the same pressure campaign that we did in South Africa and it's going to lead to the same positive outcome makes no sense.
More severe pressure campaign.
They don't have the same goals. They do not have the same goals.
It doesn't matter if they have the same goals. It doesn't. No, we're just trying to get a state. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. We have a state,
if
right?
If the ANC had a goal to destroy white South Africans and kick them all out, that would matter. No.
Hold on. The ANC engaged in violent conflict with the white majority, right? The ANC engaged in violence, right? People within that country. There are other groups.
Not against civilians, specifically not against civilians.
My understanding
specifically avoided targeting civilians because they wanted to preserve future racial relations. That is not a good comparison.
My understanding is that there was
Let Loner go.
Okay. I don't know why we ever got into this world where violence just all means the same thing. Violence of the ANC was primarily targeted at government infrastructure with a clear strategy of making the current state unsustainable. They did target military throughout the 80s. A lot of their styles of military attack were reined in because they kept on accidentally or killing civilians or through bad training or through individual actors taking out like revenge killings. So, for example, land mining was one thing that they tried against the South African military. They stopped after 2 years because they thought they were killing too many civilians. The number that they considered too many civilians dying from landmines was 23, maybe even 22. Okay? The ANC is not comparable in any regard. You haven't answered my question. Name one Middle East or North African country in the last 100 years where the Jewish minority has been kept safe.
It doesn't particularly matter. Right, like I don't
just say the same thing about like European countries.
Yeah, you could say the same. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had the they had the Holocaust. Where Jews, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also Morocco. Like Morocco is very friendly to Jews recently. They've put the Jewish heritage of their
probably.
Oh God.
Yes, Morocco is probably the best example, and still. There are hundreds of thousands of Moroccan Jews who fled Morocco, not just because Israel looked nicer and better to them.
Yes, they did. What are you talking about? That's not true.
Hold on. But there was also hundreds of thousands who left also because they wanted to fulfill like this messianic Zionist ideology.
No,
absolutely.
That's completely ahistorical. What, you think Mizrahi Jews in Morocco in the 1950s were messianic? Prove that right now. I think that's completely made up. That's fake.
I think many of them were. Okay, just like the
they weren't. They
were not. They were literally not messianic.
The Zionist ideology. And had a messianic view of Israel.
And in fact, again, a lot of the Moroccan Jews are among the most nostalgic for their former Arab lands. The Moroccan Jews living in Israel have, yes, the fondest memories of the Arab. I don't say Arab Jews, but of the Jews from Arab lands in Israel. They have among the fondest memories. That doesn't mean that they did not have to flee. It's like, and also, yeah, again, they were not messianic. The messianic Zionism is a much more sort of recent invention. This was not the start of Zionism. Zionism was anti-messianic, if anything, from the beginning. It was essentially a socialist movement. Okay, it had nothing to do with this idea too that like the majority of Israelis believe that Israel has a right to exist because God promised the land to the Jewish people is just not married to reality. The majority of Israelis don't necessarily believe in God. They don't believe that they were promised this land. They believe that they live there now and they have a right to defend themselves.
I'm pretty sure that until the 60s even, the overwhelming majority of Zionist leaders up until the founding of the state and even a decade afterwards, they were atheists or agnostic. And that's not even to mention, again, the Middle East, the Moroccan Jews, they were not messianic, okay? They left Morocco because they were chased out because of pogroms. I don't know, like, okay.
Right. Even in Arab countries where they didn't have explicit
the ideological realities. Okay, sorry. Please just show me then. I want to hear one historian or just someone who has claimed that Moroccan Jews in any substantial number left the country because of messianism.
Hold on, that's fine. I can do that for you in a bit. It's not a problem at all. But I want you to acknowledge that you've all agreed, I think, that within Morocco, we have an example of a nation where currently Jews and non-Jews can live side by side just fine. They didn't do the Holocaust.
We actually don't know that.
They didn't murder all the Jews there
because Jews.
I think in 2011 in Morocco, I think they put the Jewish heritage of the nation in their fucking like law, right? So like, I think it's kind of silly to speak as if like all these Arab nations just hate Jews, right?
This is something
you could look all over. Hold on, one at a time. Let Doobie finish, and we're gonna go to Tali and Lonerbox. But just really quick, for my edification, how many Moroccan Jews live there currently?
2,000.
Okay. Exactly.
Yeah, so like with the rest of the Middle East, there's a big push to move to Israel.
That has not been 5,000.
Yeah, it was 5,000 like 25 years ago. Now it's 2,000, and obviously it was over like a third of a million before the 50s. So yes, it is actually the case that a lot of countries do become more amenable to their Jewish population when 99% of them leave. Yeah, then there's usually okay with the last remaining few, and even that.
And we see this in Europe too. We see this in Europe too, and we see this in Spain too. So yes, there are many other countries that are culpable of this, and that also then change their laws and even try to entice Jews to come back. after they are gone, after they've been pushed out. And
Okay,
while
hold
it's
on.
true
So
that the Moroccan government may not have sanctioned Jews or forced them to leave, there were pogroms, which is again a similar thing that we saw
there are
in Europe.
pogroms
So it
in
wasn't
Europe.
like every European nation that's my point. It wasn't like every European nation was putting laws on the books to expel all of their Jews, but there was violence in huge numbers against Jews in these countries.
Hold on,
We're not
including
being, they
European
were not
nations,
being protected.
including European nations, right? Even
Yes,
after the
I just said
Holocaust.
that.
Wait, hold on.
Yes,
Okay,
I
then you
literally just said that.
and then I think you'd agree that today Jews are probably safe in Europe, right? And in most of Europe, they can go to Europe and they're just fine, right? So I don't think there's
Yeah,
any
it's like,
reason.
yes, they are
There's
safe,
like
and
pointing
Jews
to
can
this
visit many parts of the Middle East and North Africa
pointing
too.
to like historical anti-Semitism and historical pogroms, and speak as if it's impossible that today a Jew could be safe in any of these countries.
Okay, I'm just going to ask the question one more time. Maybe I'll rephrase it slightly. Any Muslim or Middle Eastern or Arab country in the last 100 years that has been able to convincingly keep their Jewish minority safe, and why? Because none of them have, okay? And then why you think Palestine would be the first one?
Well, I don't think that. So first off, I think that you could apply this to most of the world, and you'll find that most of the world has not been convincingly been able to keep any of its minority groups safe, including Jews, right?
Hold
So
on, Doobie,
that's
just real quick. You can understand that, yes, perhaps that may be the case, but which do you think it's safer for a Jew to live, in America or
Well,
in
this is the
Iran?
next part of my question. Well, this is the next part of my response, right? Well, actually, of course, America. Right? I
Okay.
think it'd be totally fine if all the Israelis came to America. They'd be totally
What
safe.
about Saudi Arabia?
Wait, questionable. So hold on. So let me finish get to the next stage of my response. It's actually the more important part, I think. So I don't think anybody who advocates for a two-state solution, or I'm sorry, a one-state solution, is saying it could happen tomorrow and everything would be fine, right? I think that's a totally dishonest framing of that solution, right? I think every reasonable person who talks about this says that there should be a transitionary period, there should be an outside peacekeeping force, there's going to be a long period, decades of de-radicalization on both sides, because both populations are very radicalized right now. A lot. If you could have something like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, like the South Africa did, but more long term, even more fucking. What's the word I'm looking for? With even more power to punish people on both sides who've done things that are absolutely barbaric. I think that this is like a long-term project we're talking about. We're not saying you just say a one-state solution overnight and everybody's be happy and everybody will be fine. I think if the long-term goal is permanent peace there, I actually don't think a two-state solution is the best way to do that. I think it makes sense to have a one-state solution as like the long-term goal, but with actually it's similar to Hamas, the stepping stone being a second state, and then long-term you work to integrate these populations. I don't think there's any reason we can't do that. Other countries have done this historically.
Yugoslavia.
I just want to say, I'm just witnessing again. It's always like this. You guys have a colonizer mindset. Okay, I'm sorry. This was not the case in South Africa, where you would poll either group actually and find less than 10% of them wanting this integration. By the 90s, actually early 90s, when violence was actually still quite prevalent, white South Africans were given a choice to keep negotiating over ending apartheid or not. Overwhelming majority of them chose to keep negotiating. They wanted apartheid to end. And obviously the black South Africans did all the way from the 60s in the majority. I don't know why we're talking about we're like a bunch of fucking colonial overlords
I was
in a
trying
cafe
to
in
address
France
this
talking about
just real quick.
how we
Let
get
Lebanon
these two groups to live in a solution that neither of them
Lonerbox
wants in any numbers. Yeah, it's weird.
So I was trying to address this briefly. If there is no path to peace, right, there is no desire there, right? Like it won't show up in the polls if there's no hope. If it's the case, like right now, that hey, we're going to be genocided.
No, there's a desire for peace. There's not a desire for one state.
1 second. If we're suffering famine, if we right now are being thrown out of our homes in the West Bank, yeah, in the polls, it's going to say something awful. That's true, right? But this is a long-term process. Why did South Africa not say
that? Why did the black people in South Africa not say that?
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Lonerbox, calm down. Lonerbox, calm down. We'll let you finish, didn't we? All right. So yeah, you'll see that people will have very extremist views because they live in very extremist times, right? We could talk about the genocidal desires of the general Israeli population, right? We've seen the polls there. Yes, that exists. I acknowledge that of that side. But that doesn't mean that can't be changed, right? Society shift, right? Israelis didn't always feel this way, right? But Palestinians weren't always so black-pilled of chances. But the way to make that happen is to get in a peace process, right? And actually make concrete advances. When people see this is the path, right? This is the way that I don't get bombed. This is the way that I don't have to worry about like a suicide bomber showing up next to my child's school. This is the way that I can make sure I get food and that my family can grow up prosperous. If you give them that option, they're going to back peace every time. Every time.
Okay. Just to be clear, Black South Africans were pushing for the end of apartheid at a time when, like, I think in the space of a couple of decades, 3 million people were deported from their homes and like shipped brutally into fucking Bantustans, and they still wanted equality. I don't know why people try to make this comparison. If we're talking about olive branches to peace and people seeing some opportunity, again, we can go down this road if you want, but I can just ask you, why has no Palestinian leader, whether it was Abbas, Arafat, or Hamas, or back to al-Husseini even, why have none of them actually ever said, like, clearly, this is our version of peace that we're willing to commit to? Why has there never been like a counteroffer to Camp David or to Olmert's plan or to the partition resolution that would actually satisfy like both of these groups? Why has no counteroffer ever been given?
Did I freeze?
I don't think it.
Oh,
no,
ahead.
I mean, I just don't
Nope.
think that.
It's just an unanswerable question, Wick.
But it doesn't, like, you're saying, why isn't there a counter offer? Why don't they? I don't understand. I don't know.
So the partition resolution wasn't counter offered. They went to war.
To be clear, I don't know the whole history of the peace agreements, right? So this is a level of ignorance on my part, so that I'll admit to. But like, that doesn't mean that the people don't want peace, right? So that's why I'm like trying to wrap my head around this question.
This
like
is
I don't
true.
know. One second. Just one last
You're
thing.
conflating peace.
Let Prime go, and then you can respond. Go ahead, Prime.
Sure. Well, so you're saying there hasn't been a political response, like a political reply to a certain peace plan, right? You're saying that is indicative of the people not wanting that. No, these are different things, right? Like, let's see that, like, within our country right now, there's great political divide as to what the Trump administration should be doing, right? That just because on the top level of the political scale, right, there isn't necessarily a proper response or mistakes were made or anything like that, doesn't say that the rest of the people themselves are dedicated to dying for the cause, right, until the other side is wiped out. I extend this to our Israeli friends. I extend it to them as well. There's that poll that 79% of Israelis have exterminationist views, right? Like, these things are practical realities, right, currently, but you can change these realities. You can convince people otherwise, right, if you give them the path. If you don't give them the path, if you continue the slaughter, nothing changes. Go ahead.
You're conflating a few... You're conflating a few things, and this is just obviously not what Lonerbox believes. So Lonerbox is not saying that
I do have super chats I need to read, and then we're gonna start wrapping this up. But go ahead.
Lonerbox is not saying that the failure of Palestinian leadership to come back with a response or a counteroffer is a representation of the willingness of the Palestinian people to fight forever. I think he actually likely believes the opposite, that it's a huge failure and a shame on the Palestinian people that their leadership has played with their lives in the balance and not taken any of these opportunities seriously. Even if they wanted to fight for more and to ask for more, they didn't. They didn't even come back. Okay, so he's not arguing that because there's been a failure of peace negotiations in the past, that the society at large doesn't want peace or wants to fight forever. But you are conflating two things. Wanting peace is not the same thing as wanting a one-state solution. You're right. The majority of civilians, of normal people, of Israelis and Palestinians want to live good lives. They want to be able to provide for themselves and their families, and they want their children to have better opportunities than they do.
Mm-hmm.
However, they also, the majority of them, don't want to do that living together in one equal state for two peoples. You can have peaceful intentions and not want a one-state solution. This idea that those two things are the same thing, I don't know how you make that leap. That is the bought in assumption of what you're saying.
Sorry. Okay. Multiple things here. One, what I was saying doesn't necessarily have to, like, in terms of like providing a path to peace. When we started off, we weren't talking about necessarily a one-state solution. We're talking about ceasefire, right? And then we're talking about a two-state solution. And I haven't mentioned the one-state solution yet, though, because that complicates things, but for the reasons that we're talking about, right? But simply for the matter of a ceasefire, right now you won't see an appetite for that in Israel, right? Well, that can be changed, especially
Actually, that's not even true.
Oh, okay. Well, then great. Then I love it. Then we have Israeli friends that we can work with. Love to see it. All right. Well, then one or the other,
then we should be enabling and emboldening the people in Israel that we want to work with. If we believe that
if there is appetite for that, then the Israeli state is not reflecting their population. Okay, right? That means
yes, obviously, and they haven't been for a long time.
But no,
they haven't been for a long time.
Yeah, sure. But the origins of this point, right? This whole thread we're talking about is like, if there's even a point of putting pressure, international pressure, right? I brought up the apartheid, putting international pressure on Israel, right? And then you guys say, well, I mean, the people don't want it, right? And then I say, well, if you give them a chance, like a piece of chance, if you give them a route, then we can change their minds, right? But right,
and leaving Hamas militarized in the Gaza Strip
so that doesn't tie to simply a one-state solution. That doesn't tie to a one-state solution. The point of me bringing that up was literally just for the ceasefire, right?
Okay.
So we can go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
hold on. I have to read these super chats. People have paid me good money to read these super chats. I'll read these super chats, and then we'll kind of wrap it up because I'm not Hamas. I won't keep you hostage on the panel, right? I'll let you go off to eat your dinners, to do whatever you need to do. We'll get some closing statements, and it's been a much better discussion than I thought it was going to be, honestly, right? I thought it was going to be a total shit show, but we've actually had
less belligerent than I usually am. That's true.
we got some actual interesting discussion here, so I really appreciate that. But let's read these super chats and we can talk about them, then we can get to closings. $20 from Alexander Wren to say, does Doobie really think that Israel would be able to ethnically cleanse these people if they disarmed and Hamas disbanded? Do you really think the internal and international pressure to make a solution could be ignored?
I mean, I agree with Tali, sorry, that many people in Israel don't seem to give a fuck about the international pressure. Whether or not they could actually not give a fuck enough that it actually happens, I doubt it. I think at some point, if they were actually attempting to like fully genocide or ethnically cleanse these people, there would be an international response to stop it. But that doesn't mean they wouldn't try, right? And I think it's reasonable for people within Gaza, for Hamas to think that they would try, and for them not to want that to happen.
I'm not entirely sure that the international community would. Like we kept saying at the start, right? People, like, there were conversations that, okay, well, if 5,000 people die, if 10,000, 15,000 people die, unfortunately Tali left, then there's going to be response, right? That the international community is going to stop it, right? At some point, of course, the slaughter will stop once we reach some indefinable number. No, actually, all of this gets baked in. Right, so let's say, and I'm sure our friend Lonerbox will disagree on the number, right? But let's say it's 150,000 Palestinians are dead in this conflict. Let's just put that out there, right? Well, then you would say, well, at 200,000, surely they would they'd stop this, right? Well, no, it all gets baked in, right? It's just simply more violence being enacted on the Palestinian people. People just kind of get used to it. So no, I'm actually not sure that at some point, without like a massive political upswelling, right, that state actors wouldn't just sit back and watch.
Okay, let's get through the rest of them, and I'm going to rapid fire.
Can I answer that as well? Or?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just be really quickly. So I've been saying this for quite a while now. I don't think it's held up to many, it's had much pushback, but the fact is that Palestinians in their history achieved far more by throwing stones than they ever did with guns or bombs. In the Second Intifada, Palestinians, like, it was literally like young children, sometimes quite often preteens, throwing stones at occupying tanks and soldiers. And the result of that movement that lasted quite a few years was that Israel went from a prime minister, Yitzhak Shamir, who was literally like a former Lehi terrorist from the 40s, to Yitzhak Rabin supporting a two-state solution, right? And that was the beginning of the Oslo Accords. And that makes sense because Israeli soldiers didn't actually really like having to deal with with like kids throwing stones and I meant first intifada, sorry. Yeah, Israeli
I was about
soldiers
to say the
didn't
second intifada, there was like 145
sorry.
fucking suicide bombers.
Yeah.
But anyway,
First
whatever.
intifada.
First,
Okay, yeah.
gotcha,
Israeli
first.
soldiers didn't like having to deal with that. They didn't like having to go home to their parents and explain to them that they were dealing with kids throwing stones at them and like using guns would be a bit extreme. So the fucking defense minister told them to use clubs instead. So they had to beat them until their bones broke, right? And it's like, yeah, people didn't like this. Israeli society didn't like it either. And then for the first time, the narrative of the occupation and the fact that it can't last forever started to permeate within Israeli society, and they voted left. I think Begin and the right wing had been in since the 70s. What flipped it was this, right? Like soldiers doing things that they didn't really want to do, and things that the civilian population in Israel didn't like watching their soldiers do. Israelis have shown in the past that they will change their opinions depending on how much they have to fear. If you look at the Israeli psyche, if you look at even these polls, you mentioned one that says like 82% of them want to ethnically cleanse Gaza. That poll is insanely unreliable, by the way. I can tell you more after. It's still high. Israelis are still mental, okay? They're but it comes from a position of ultimately fear, okay? And if you can understand that, you can see that if Hamas was gone and disarmed, then you are going to have far less of a leg to stand on if you are the Israeli right wing. If there's nothing to be afraid of from Gaza, if there's no chance that Hamas is ever going to get control over that place again to rebuild and try their attacks again, then Israeli public opinion will shift. It will give the left in Israel a much better case. Because obviously, if you're an Israeli left-winger, it's easy to push for two states and for peace when not all that much is happening, or when the most is happening is stone throwing against soldiers. It's very difficult as an Israeli left-winger to make your case when there are 100 suicide bombings happening in a few years, or when October 7th just happened. So the fact is that there's no future in Gaza as long as Hamas is there. As long as Hamas has the power to, they will rebuild and try again, because that's what they said they always wanted to do.
Okay. Let's keep going with these super chats. $5 from the Justice 35 to say, why doesn't Hamas just surrender and the war would be over? ? Why is everything always on Israel, but Hamas can just do whatever with zero accountability? $5 from the same person. Why is it a bad thing if Israel is empowering Palestinians to overthrow Hamas? If Israel has a partner gov in Gaza, there would be no IDF strikes. Any responses to either of these?
Can you repeat the last
Sure.
question?
Why is it a
please?
bad thing if Israel is empowering Palestinians to overthrow Hamas? This is referencing to Doobie's accusation that the IDF or Israel is funding gangs.
Oh,
or
those
what have you.
gangs?
Yeah, I think is what they were called. So the question is, why is it a bad thing if Israel is empowering Palestinians to overthrow Hamas? If Israel has a partner government in Gaza, there will be no IDF strikes.
Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I can. So,
Please.
The issue is that there were stories about this last year, and to be clear, Netanyahu's admitted that they are arming groups, these clans within Gaza. Last year, there were stories about these groups attacking aid convoys in front of the IDF. So as soon as they got through the checkpoint, a couple hundred meters down the road, they would attack the convoy, take all the aid, and beat the drivers, right, and then just take it all. Right in front of the IDF, full view. These guys walking around with weapons. So that is the problem, right? That some of these groups are just criminal organizations that are victimizing the Palestinian people, right? So it's not if they had like some kind of like a Hamas resistance force, right? That they were arming. It actually might be a good thing. I might be in favor of that, right? Right now, and this is primarily not just due to the history of their statements. But due to what we've seen from these groups thus far, i.e., Israel released like drone footage, like 25 seconds of drone footage of men. It says they were like shooting people at this Gaza aid checkpoint. I'm not sure the video actually shows that, but potentially shooting, definitely harassing, throwing dirt at people, trying to get them to leave. And Hamas claims this wasn't them. In fact, Hamas claims that they've killed, I think, like seven of these guys in the last few days. They've executed them. They call it a field execution, which I'm sure just means they shot them right there on the road. So, yeah, it seems like these groups, at least some of these groups that are being armed, are actually pretty bad, and they're actually predatory to the Palestinians, and I think that's a bad thing, obviously.
Yeah, and can I also expand on that?
Yeah, briefly, yes.
Yeah, sure. Like it's simply not like giving money to like various groups hoping for the best. I mean, we saw that in Syria. Like at some point, the U.S. was like funding like Al Qaeda linked groups or ISIS linked groups. Like you could just give money out to like gangs that say like, "Oh, I'm against your enemies," right? And that doesn't actually give you anywhere. The best way to do it, right, like featured in the Egypt reconstruction plan, would be to hold elections, right? To give them a political process, and by that the population, a political alternative. These people aren't married to Hamas, right? If, like you say, they also see that Hamas is a dangerous organization, it doesn't have their best intentions in mind, right? Well, they'll choose someone else. It's been like, was it 17 years or something ridiculous since the last election? Yeah, a lot of minds have changed, right? And if you gave them the option, let's choose another side, they might very well do so, right? Creating political parties that can then change minds and provide concrete wins. That's the best way to move forward.
Okay. $10 from Justice35 to say, hey, Prime, why does Hamas hoard aid and sell it back to Palestinians for a profit? Why does Hamas never build bomb shelters for civilians? When does Hamas actually get held accountable? And there's another one from the same person that I'll also read to. 10 more additional dollars to say it's obvious that one side has fully bought the Qatari propaganda. Palestinians, when polled, don't want a two-state solution. They want one state where Jews are second-class citizens. And I'll let you respond to that if you like.
I think most of, at least the latter half of that's already been responded to. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. £5 from Philosophical Zombie Hunter say, if Israel is a pariah and the West is no longer able to moderate Israel, how would that help Palestinians?
I think we already went over that earlier.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the idea isn't just that everybody just watches their hands of Israel and there's like no influencer. I think that they need to maintain influence, but I think part of that maintaining of influence is that you do have sanctions on the table. You have like the international community coming in, putting boots on the ground, quote unquote, like they like to say, to get this to stop. Right. So yeah.
It's been so long since we've talked, Zombie Hunter. I've missed our toxic political debates on Israel. Have a good one.
Okay. And with that, gang, this has been a good discussion, actually, I feel. We got some more great content coming up for you tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, where me and Tali will be talking to Diane Yap, who has a bunch of opinions on men and why we are evil and our gaze is disgusting. And it should be a fun discussion.
She sounds amazing.
She's
I love her.
Can I just say really quickly?
We're going to get to closings, and I'll let you go first. So how about we do that?
Go for it.
So we're going to go closing statements. We're going to give it first to Doobie, and we're going to just go and have Tali have the last word. Doobie, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was trying to find the because I initially saw this in a documentary that I was watching about Jewish migration to Israel. I can't find that documentary, so I was trying to find that for you. But I did find an anthropologist from Israel, specializing in North African Jewry, who goes into he's got a paper where he goes into the motivations of Moroccan Jews, right? And yes, he says that for especially rural Moroccan Jews, yes, Making Aliyah was religious. They were messianic. So yeah, I'll post that in our chat, in our group chat, and I'm going to try to find you that documentary because it was interesting, just like generally.
Okay, well, thanks for being
And the anthropologist's name is Randy Goldberg.
Yeah, just to be clear, the majority of Moroccan Jews, I think, were urban, so that's already okay. That's fine.
Yeah, the claim wasn't that they all went for this reason. It was that,
or even that, like a sizable number of them. Again, like first of all, being religious is not the same as messianic.
Correct.
I understand that. Yeah, I wasn't making that claim.
Okay. Where can people find you, Doobie?
The politics server on Discord. Discord.gg/politics. This is the best and biggest politics server on Discord. Almost 100,000 users, unfortunately. Hundreds of people in voice channels all day. It's a bad time.
Okay, check it out if you want to go and argue if you're Team Elon or Team Trump. That's probably the place to do it. Go check it out and fight and
there's
choose
a
your
civil war
fighter in the
happening there right
Civil
now.
War. Lonerbox, please, closing statements and tell people where they find you.
Oh shit! Closing statements. Okay, I think the proposal that Hamas keeps their arms and not civilian control is fucking mental. It's interesting that people would say that you could push towards peace and have like different parties come in and reestablish some kind of like state building control and rebuilding with that going on, when we actually know for a fact that wasn't one of the reasons Hamas did October 7th was literally to derail peace and normalization with Israel and Saudi. We know what Hamas does with their weapons. We know why they want to keep them. They want to keep them so that they can keep this conflict going, and they can keep the war of attrition going against Israel until the state is eventually undermined, either in this lifetime or the next. Yeah, I'm just no one. I think there's something that people maybe miss in the sense that, like, I have a million problems with the way Israel is conducting this war. Like, a lot of their actions are horrible. A lot of their leaders are fucking unhinged. A lot of the population is fucking unhinged. It doesn't take away from the broader fact that when it comes to the Israeli government, the government can be changed. They're currently trailing the opposition in the polls. With Hamas, the only way you change them is by getting rid of them through force until they give it up. That's it. There's no future in Gaza. There's no rebuilding unless it's going to be rebuilding tunnels and weapons. With Hamas still there, like, that's unfortunate truth. And unless any other like peace proposal that Egypt or anyone else wants to bring forward gets you around that hurdle, then unfortunately this is what happens. Like, you've got two sides with their red lines. Hamas doesn't want to have anything that means that they can't keep their military and try again later with October 7th or something along those lines. And Israel doesn't want to give up unless Hamas is gone. And unfortunately, when you have these two red lines and never the twain will cross, then that usually just ends with both sides duking it out until one side loses. Very unfortunate. It's very sad. It's very fucking horrible. But until there's any other solution potentially given, then this is the world we're in.
Okay. I got a link to his channel on my YouTube, as well as all the rest of these lovely individuals. Check him out. He's a good guy. We like Lonerbox. Hopefully he'll come back soon. Primecayes, go ahead.
It's wonderful. In these last few moments, we found agreement with our friend Lonerbox here. Of course, yes. Force needs to be applied to change these sides, just as with Hamas. Yeah, just with Israel. Israel, a belligerent state, an aggressive state, won't change its mind unless outside forces are applied against it, right? Be that political, economic, or even military, right? None of that will, nothing will change otherwise, right? Which is why we should sanction Israel, which is why we should impose consequences on this quite evil regime that has clearly stated its genocidal intent, right? And the same is true of Hamas. We should put pressure on both sides to end the conflict, right? That's where the international community comes in, right? That's where the Egypt reconstruction plan comes in, or another plan, right? I'm not married to that plan. It could be another plan, one that has reasonable off ramps for the for all parties involved, right? That's the way forward, right? Through peace, through pressure by concerned international parties. Okay. Beyond that, I just want to take the moment to thank everyone for participating. I thought we did actually have a good conversation here. Well, first of all, shout out to my friend Doobie, my brother here, and shout out to Lonerbox, who I haven't talked to in a long time, but it was really, I thought, it was a really fun conversation. I'm just meeting you, Tali, but you're great. You're a great opponent, and I'd love to talk to you again in the future. And shout out to my friend Wick, who I've always loved. We've known each other for a very long time. I like him despite him being pro-Zionist. I like him in spite of being a filthiest of centrists. Oh my God. But he's always been kind to me, and I've tried to be kind to him as well. Okay, you can find me on twitch.tv and youtube.com/Primecayes, Primecayes, Primecayes. You can also find DB there, and anyone else who wants to join our political debates that we have there as well. We have political panels. We'd love to have you. So come join us.
Check him out, gang. He's a great guy, and if you like my content, blame Prime. He's how I got my start. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you later. Last but certainly not least, Tali Bots. Go ahead. Uh-oh, you're muted.
Muted again.
Sorry, it's like the third time. Thank you, Wick, for having us. I am pleasantly surprised with how civil this conversation was, and I appreciate it. I think that's the only way. We owe it to the people there who are actually suffering to not turn this into blood sports and to at least try to engage with each other in good faith. And I do feel like that happened here, so I appreciate that. I'm not sure that we have advanced a plan here, really, but I think the reason that a Zionist right of center Jew like me and a SOCDEM Lebanese pro-Palestinian man can come together on this topic is because we want an outcome that is realistic and lasting for both peoples, and the mainstream Western perspective that we have like two equal evil forces, Israel and Hamas, and that both sides need to be willing to concede. I mean, it's like similar to the conversation that we're seeing around Russia and Ukraine, and I think it's ridiculous. I think we have to. If Hamas is not going to surrender its arms and return the hostages, then Israel needs to be allowed to win the war, and they need to be much more rigorous in taking into consideration the well-being of the civilian population in Gaza, even if only for the most cynical reasons that it could only help them to be flooding the scene with aid while they are raining it down with rockets. So even if only for the most cynical reasons, Israel should be doing a million more things to preserve life and well-being in Gaza, but Israel needs to be able to destroy Hamas if they're not going to surrender.
Okay, where can people find you?
At Talibots, TALIBOTZ on Twitter and YouTube and on Wix channel all the time. I'll be here tomorrow, and we've got something cooking next week. Also, we're gonna have a trans debate next week, so tune in for more triggering content.
Okay, check us out, gang. We love you. Thank you again. Wait, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.